I'm still watching that Dan Carlin thing, the Supernova in the East, about the Japanese in World War II, and it's so good. I'm like, I feel
Is
like
it making you like the Japanese more?
Oh, it makes me despise them.
Hating them?
It makes me despise those scummy pieces of shit. Oh, they're awful. The Australians were hardcore. They were, I think they're maybe on Guadalcanal or one of the big islands. Lots of Australians. They've been stuck there for a long time, not much food. And the Australians just got so good, they stopped losing men almost. And they got so good at killing. And they're talking about, they came upon one of their guys. They've been tortured. And there's a sign above their guy that said he took a long time to die. And it's like, this enraged the Australians. They went on a killing spree. It's just like, it's great. They find their guy like bent over with had been raped and with a bayonet up his ass. He's dead. Like so after a while, there was no taking of prisoners at all, or even considering the taking of prisoners, or even messing with a body. They considered the dead bodies to be like zombies. They might get back up because they'd often play dead. They'd often be like one guy out there with a grenade under him, ready to pop up and take you with them.
I don't. That doesn't seem very honorable.
It's super honorable if you can take a Marine down with you. But it makes me hate the Japanese, just despise them. Like the Battle of Midway is just one of the coolest stories ever. Basically, the Japanese show up with their 4 carriers, 4 aircraft carriers, and like a huge navy. And we're there with I think 3, and one of them's fucked up already. It's already damaged from maybe a previous battle. And they're bombing land with their carriers when they spot our carriers. And so their guy has a decision, because it's a big deal to switch from land to air bombing and get the refueling done. And so he decides to take all of the guys who are bombing the land, let them all land, let them all refuel all the planes, including the ones that are like flying around doing defense. Basically, he brings every plane back and has it dressed, fueled, and like armed to go fight the American to go fight the American carrier. The alternative would have been to be like, send what we have now. And as soon as we can send more, send a little more. And as soon as we can send another one, every time we have a guy with a plane that's suited to attack the carrier group of the Americans, send it. He could have done that, because that's what the Americans did. The Americans had this, it was continuous. It begins at like, they know exactly what time, because it's the fucking Navy. And like the Americans were attacking continuously. Our torpedoes didn't work. The torpedo planes are most dangerous job. They have to fly at wave height and like detach this torpedo, and they would either go too low, or even if they hit, they didn't work. Like our torpedoes for the first 2 or 3 years of the war were bullshit. They literally didn't work. Yes, it went on for years. Torpedoes not working before they fixed the problem. Meanwhile, the Japanese had the best torpedoes in the world. So all the torpedoes are hitting and missing, or just not blowing up, doing 0 damage. And then the dive bombers come. It's starting to look like the Americans are going to lose, because the Japanese are fending them off so well. Then the dive bombers come, and the pilot had been at Pearl Harbor. And the pilot, you've got his first-person not viewpoint, but like his narrative, as he's coming down from high altitude straight down into one of the carriers. It's got a big red circle painted on the deck. And he's like, I'm aiming right for that 50-foot circle. And I drop my bomb and I pull up hard and I watch and watch. That's a biplane. But
this is the American Revolution. No, I'm confused.
But they hit 3 of the Japanese carriers. They destroyed 3 of the Japanese carriers in that battle. And that changed the whole war. Like, that's where the war changes. The Japanese lose 3 carriers, and even though our shit is heavily damaged, I think they sink one of our carriers in that battle. But the reason they sink our carrier, if I remember correctly, they came and attacked our carrier, fucked it up, dropped bombs through the deck. There's wooden decks on American and Japanese carriers. The Germans had steel decks, I think, or the British did. And so the thing's on fire. They radio back. 1 carrier down, 1 flat top down. That's what the Japanese say. But the crew on that boat was so good and experienced at putting out fires and repairing that they put the fires out, repaired the deck, and were launching planes off of it. So when the Japanese get back, they think 1 carrier's down. It's not. In fact, it's been repaired to full power already before they can get back. And so they say, oh, we found another carrier. And so they hit it again. I think then they sink it. So they think they've taken out 2 carriers when they've only taken out 1.
I think I have this right. Early in World War II, there was an attack on an American ship of some sort, naval ship, and they took out the firefighting team. And then something that would have been extinguished was sunk. So then the Navy made a change in tactic and trained every single sailor to have a firefighting role so that you couldn't just take out the right 37 guys and sink a ship. And that lends to what Kyle was saying. Like, they were so good at firefighting because literally everyone on the ship is a firefighter.
World War II aircraft carriers were triply flammable, I think he puts it. And that they're
compared
full
to
of
what?
Compared to anything, compared to any other naval vessel.
Those things are so flammable.
Compared to any other naval vessel because they're made of wood and they have all the fuel for the planes and then the bombs for the planes. And they also have guns on them. So like have all the ammo for those guns, all those 5-inch shells or 8-inch shells or whatever the fuck, and all the powder that launches them. So if you hit the wrong part, it's just they would jump out of the water. Those big, gigantic naval vessels, destroyers and stuff, when the magazine goes off, in every narrative I've heard, like different battles, they talk about the boats jumping out of the water from the power of the explosion.
Nowadays, Russian tanks are curiously flammable. Like I see them just drop a grenade in the open hatch. So if the Russians abandon their tank, maybe it's immobilized or something, then the Ukrainians will come along and drop a grenade in the empty tank just so that it can't be repaired and reused. And it's surprising to me just how often they seem to burst into flames. All the rounds that are stored inside catch fire and blow it up.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that makes sense. You're probably not like spending a ton of time fireproofing against like a grenade attack at the last second because it's it's already over if that happens.
The American tanks have their magazine in a separate compartment that has blowout panels. So when it explodes, it has a released explosion that vents so you don't kill everyone and lose the turret.
Well, that's a much better idea.
It's a way better idea if you're inside the tank.
I'd so much rather be in that tank than the one where you just burn alive.
We've got AC as well, like good air conditioning in there, 100%. Right.
Well, I bet the Russians probably don't have good AC because it's Russia.
I think he said that Russians don't have AC. I think he said the Israelis have AC suits, like there's a hose that goes onto what they're wearing, and the Americans have AC, if I recall. It's something like that.
Fucking cool. I'd love an AC suit. Just walk around all the time, like water circulating in it.
I think it was powered by the tank. Like the tank has a hose that you put on your, I'm making it up, shoulder, and now you're air conditioned inside.
I wonder if it's like, I would want liquid to be radiating through it, like an engine radiator.
Like you're a computer?
I am a computer.
Well, I guess
keep me cool.
Technically,
I want like hell. I want it all up around my head and my groin. I want like armpits. I want that.
You're not going to kill a lot of foes if you're all sweaty.
I don't intimidate with lack of shrinkage.
I just want to.
You just want to be sweaty, dangling sweaty balls.
Sweaty balls long. It's me at full size entering battle.
That's how we beat the Japanese. Is they saw our sweaty dicks and balls, and they're like, "Oh, we cannot possibly compete with this." Because they were cold.
I've been watching Dan Carlin's Supernova in the East. If you don't know, Dan Carlin's basically a historian. He does these long form, heavily researched, well put together audio videos. It's audio, but I'm watching it on YouTube. I'm 8.5 hours in, and Pearl Harbor just ended. It's 8.5 hours until Pearl Harbor stops. Like till you get to Pearl Harbor, and then he tells those events. Like the
what was the starting point?
Yeah,
did you explain that?
Japan invading China in 1931, and like the reasons for their.
So it's been like a decade.
Yeah, I was like, if the starting point was like the beginning of recorded time, then Pearl Harbor's pretty far along.
Yeah, then he's flying.
It's called Supernova in the East. He's talking about Japan, the rising sun of Japan, going supernova and turning imperialist. The motivations behind that are very important. Understanding like the racial undertones of the whole world and how the Japanese were underestimated by like the entire world. Like they were like, oh, they're very good at copying technology, but they could never craft their own because the Japanese were in this isolationist period. The Japanese were in this isolationist period for a very, very long time, hundreds and hundreds of years. They come out of it and they send envoys to all the major countries. So they send one to England, learn how Navy works. They copy the English Navy. They're the best Navy in the world. Why wouldn't they? They send them everywhere. Military, art, everything. They want to be the best at everything. And it's interesting. He describes the Japanese people as just like everyone else, just more so. And it's like, yeah, they do everything with such an intensity and such rigor that it goes overboard. And then because they've had this period of isolationists, they've romanticized just how rigid to Bushido their ancestors were, just how good the way we look at maybe medieval knights and think of knights in shining armor who do only good, tell only truths, protect the weak. Okay, all right. Our politicians say some similar vows. They don't keep up with them. But because these guys have never known personally that ruling Bushido military class, they've heavily romanticized it. And so he tells all this to sort of load you up for what's coming in World War II. I'm fascinated. It's so good.
So you're done with the engines already?
I learned all that there was.
All that there was to know.
Yes,
now,
there's almost 4 days of history there.
What I did was I went through all the resources available to me without going to like a library or something.
Yeah, without a book.
Well, it's like as I go further, it's like, yeah, I know this. I know about that ritual. I know that they would tie those loops through the skin in their chest and then tie it to the pole and do their dance for days on end. I know that tribe had their spear had a crook in the end, like a shepherd's crook, and they would stab it into the ground and they tie a piece of leather from that to their leg to make sure they didn't take one step back. Because I went through it all.
I wanted you to learn all the details of the different human sacrifice rituals so you could teach me about all the ways they varied. How did the Incas do it? How did the Mayans do it? Did the Aztecs revolutionize it?
So they believed. So the Aztecs believed that the more the person suffered and screamed, the more powerful the blood magic would be, so that they could build a closer bond to the gods or entities they were trying to appease or connect with. So it was very important that this person die afraid and terrified.
Thank God the Spanish showed up.
So they would hold you down. 4 people would hold you down, sort of almost bent over backwards over this like bowed stone structure so that you're really exposed. He would plunge the knife in. And the goal was to tear your heart out rapidly, like as fast as possible. So you're alive when it happens. They want to show you your heart if possible. Like and you can imagine you do this 1,000 times. Maybe you get good at it. Like you're like that guy, that Japanese guy slicing up those tuna. You're just in and out. Heart.
Yeah. You're like Jiro dreams of sushi, but with torture.
But with torture. Yeah. With ripping hearts out.
Yeah. Probably a good thing we put a stop to that.
I don't know.
Spanish, at least.
You think it was working, the human sacrifice?
Well, they lost badly when like a group much smaller than them showed up.
That's told part of it. Earth's temperature has started rising ever since the human sacrifices stopped.
So Cortez only had a few hundred men with him, and there's that famous quote of him like, "Never in history have such men as us come so few and conquered so many." But they'd also went around and they'd gotten all the tribes that the main Aztec aristocrats or whatever had been bullying forever, and were like, "Hey, you tired of them raiding your village and sacrificing your people, selling?" Because that's what they do. They weren't necessarily killing like your neighbor and sacrificing him. You'd go get those jungle people. Like it's a lot like Mel Gibson's Apocalypto, if you've seen that, which is fantastic.
Yeah. A lot of the South Americans and Central Americans were very stoked when they got that offer from the Spanish, at least from what I learned, where they're like, "Oh, these gun people are going to save us from those, step pyramid building sacrificers. This is kind of nice."
Yeah, they just wanted gold, though. They just wanted gold. The Spanish had this idea that that El Dorado existed. And part of it was because early explorers, English explorers who had gone into the Amazon, either came back and lied or saw something we still haven't found. That's the only two ways.
They were fibbing, looking for more funding.
That's where I want to be too. But here's the facts. The guy who came back and told the lies was like, "Please send me back. Send me and my son back." And they gave their lives looking for what he had found before, leading these expeditions down the Amazon, looking for these golden cities and these huge civilizations that were supposedly there. Some people say that disease was introduced and those cities just went away. All the people died. They ended up melting back into the jungle when the leadership and the whole, Tower of Cards came tumbling down.
Ruins.
Well, we haven't plowed what they've done is that they can't. The Amazon rainforest is still there, so they've used that. It's not LiDAR. They've used ground penetrating aerial radar of some kind, some sort of sensor, and they found large compounds and large where cities once were, but not where cities were a couple hundred years ago, where maybe they were hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But then it is the Amazon rainforest, so I don't know. But I love
the guy who talks about like ancient civilizations where it's like there have been collapses.
I think it's Dan Carlin.
George Carlin's the comedian.
Oh,
right?
Dan Carlin.
So
he does the one who's like they were not Atlantis, but like imagine an analogy for Atlantis, like a sophisticated more technologically advanced society that got eliminated.
That's Graham Hancock. Conquered. So Graham Hancock, as much as I enjoy his works on Göbekli Tepe and all the books he's written, I've read a couple of them. He's more on the side of like, wouldn't it be cool if, let's kind of go along with this and it'll be fun to imagine that
would be cool if.
Dan Carlin is a very respected, heavily researched historian. So he does stuff on Genghis Khan, stuff on Alexander the Great. And when you hear him speak, you'll realize he's not making his mind up about something. He'll read from contradictory sources, for example. You're like, well, when discussing the rape of Nanking, it's like, okay, so here's what these people say happened. Here's what these people say happened. And here's what these people say happened. Here's the evidence. Here's a missionary who was there in Nanking, a white Westerner, and what they said happened. Here's this. And you draw your own conclusions at the end. He'll be like, look, these numbers go from 1,000 to 100,000. And just so we're clear, the 100,000 isn't the highest number that people claim. Some people say it was 5 million. It's just when the Japanese went into China, they killed for a decade. When they raped Nanking, as it's called, it wasn't like, he compares it to the Assyrians taking a city and how 3 days of barbarism and the city fell. And, burning, raping, pillaging, killing the dogs and cats, raping the boys, raping the women, killing all the men, slaughtering everything. And then the king tells the story of how I levied the rivers and allowed them to flood the city. It was nothing but what was before a sprawling metropolis was now a flooded meadow. Nature itself could not have wrought such destruction upon my enemy. And it's like, holy shit. But when you get to Nanking, 3 months of occupation and not just hanging out, raping and killing. For 3 months, they stayed in this gigantic, the capital of China at the time, and just raped and murdered and tortured and killed. And they go through like the eyewitness testimony of the Westerners and what they saw, like all of the ways they found bodies, the conditions that they were in. And it's just everything you can imagine, cut apart, dissected, split down the middle, split in half, just all sorts of evil.
What was the build the Sector 7, something like that in World War II?
Oh, Unit 731?
Unit 731, that's what it was.
Yeah. And also a thing that I didn't know was the Japanese were extremely, they believed that they were the master race of Asians. They thought that
they still do.
They believed it enough that the extermination of those people seemed like a good idea, and the subjugation of them that seemed like a good idea.
One of my close friends is she's Asian, Chinese, and like born in China and then grew up mostly here. And she'll like every once in a while, if someone asks, they'll be like, what's the racism situation like over in Asia? And she'll just be like, oh, like so much more than like white people could handle. Like white people are so sensitive about all that shit. Like she'll be like, yeah, the Japanese, they think they're, the cat's pajamas. They think they're at the tippity top. And then, the Chinese think they're at the tippity top. So I think we're a little better than the Japanese, They got one over on us a few times, admittedly, but I think we're number one. And then I'd say Koreans probably rank 3. And then someone asked her, was like, what about like Thailand, Laos, the Philippines? And she's like, oh, us, the Japanese and the Koreans all could not care less about the jungle Asians. We're all better than the jungle Asians.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, like
I've heard that term before.
Yeah.
And the record is worse than that for the Chinese, like 1v1s, because
it goes back so far.
Genghis Khan's grandson, Kublai Khan, was the leader of China. He was sitting on the throne of China at the time. And he was the one who started that first invasion of Japan, where they were going to send 50,000 troops or something by ship across the gap and there was a massive storm, sunk their fleet, and they call it the divine wind, the tsunami, and then or not tsunami,
typhoon.
It was a storm, but the divine wind is kamikaze. That's the word. That's the word.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It means divine wind. And so
what's your next era?
I mean, it's going to take me so fucking long just to cover the in World War II. I probably got another 20 hours of that.
Does part of you want to go like super ancient with it? Like the Babylonians?
I want to hear Kyle become a Vietnam expert. I think that's interesting.
Well, they touch on Vietnam as it pertains to Japan and colonialism, because the French had been fighting in Vietnam for a long time, right after World War II. Their fight sort of begins in like 51 or so in Vietnam.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like Vietnam sucks. Vietnam's no fun. You've got so much political American shit where like nobody's resolute in what we're trying to do, and you've got just a boring war. Just not a fun war.
Understand how we were so heavily committed, yet somehow fighting with one arm behind our back, and what the logic was for the way that we did this, and
public opinion, getting reelected.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Winning wars with a democracy.
Yeah,
winning wars
when they're winning very unpopular wars.
Yeah, when you look at how
trying to maintain popularity.
I mean, when wars are won, it's nasty. It's a war. It's bad. People get bayoneted in the streets. We talk about the American soldiers quickly trying to rush the battlefield so they could execute all the dead Japanese before the officers could call them off. Because if you tried to deal with them, they almost always had a grenade in their hand. Or
remember that grenade in fucking the
true story.
You guys don't like it as much, but the Band of Brothers Japanese version,
Pacific.
Yeah,
I've seen it multiple times, and a lot of the stuff that's happens in the Pacific are straight from real accounts. The guy cutting the teeth out of the guy's head, like that really happened.
That makes sense. They were using real gold. You may as well, make a little money
while the guy was still alive.
Okay, well at least kill him. With
a knife. Yeah, and paying no mind to him screaming as the knife missed as he butted it into his mouth.
Seems like he's at risk of getting bit.
Yeah,
he's got a big fucking knife.
I don't want to brag, but I would have killed him first. That's just my morals.
I don't want to brag, but I'd have used my Leatherman pliers if I was there.
You'd be like, "Oh, the way better tool."
All right, Tojo, this is going to hurt you more than me.
This Woody guy's a psychopath. He's not even keeping the teeth.
That was a regular tooth. I know.
I'm excited for you to bounce around past World War II, and then I want to learn more about like Babylon, Assyria, those ancient Persia, the ancient Greeks. It's such a cool time, and there's so much to learn. Does he not do stuff about those eras?
All of that. The next thing is going to be Alexander the Great. I want to learn about Alexander the Great because he seems like almost a fictional character. He's such a badass. Like he's conquering. Did he win his first battle? He's 16 or something. Like
dude, he makes you feel like a loser. Like they show like images of what he conquered and how much there was, and it's like, here's what he had after his 85th battle at the age of 21, and it's like,
we talked about Kennedy on the show, like you with us.
Never.
I know the show's talked about Kennedy, like everybody has, but have we ever had the Kennedy talk with you?
I think it got passively mentioned on the episode that Woody wasn't here for.
I've
like Harley and everyone was on.
Yeah. I remember watching.
I don't think we talked much though. I'd like to. I don't know too much about it.
Did Oliver Stone make the movie, the JFK movie? Is that who made it?
Yes, yeah.
I remember watching.
Remember Your King? Yeah, that's the Oliver Stone movie.
I remember that. Anyone who's never seen JFK, you should watch it. It's a tremendous film, great cast. Got our boy Kevin Spacey in there, and I remember at the end of it, there's something.
His boys, Kevin Spacey.
It's got your boy, part of the gang, so to speak. Yeah. We go way back.
Yeah. Kyle is president of the Kevin Spacey Stan Club.
I like that our boys are like Kevin Spacey, and I don't know who's the fucking guy who didn't kill himself. Epstein.
Oh, Epstein.
He is not our boy.
He was just a fun-loving playboy who liked to have a good time.
Yeah.
Is what I've heard. I mean, if that wasn't it, then surely all that information with Ghislaine's list, they would have looked into it, right?
Yeah, that's what the guard at the penitentiary told me. I don't know what else is going on.
That's what the guy who wasn't in prison there, the former cop with his pit bulls and his 22-inch arms, that's what he told you before the cameras went out.
With his magical camera racing capabilities.
At the end of JFK, though, there's a part where, I don't know, there's some text on the screen maybe, and they're like, they give a date in roughly 2020 when they're going to open these files and they'll be available for the public. And then like that came, right? Or you're probably like, oh yeah, where's this file? They like pushed it forward again. They pushed it forward again. They're like, nah, we changed our mind.
No shit.
Kick the can down the road.
No,
I remember my dad looked
that.
at me. My dad, I guess, didn't think he'd live to 2020 at the time. He was like, make sure that you look into that. Like back then, I remember so well, like 30 years ago. Like, make sure you look into that.
I want Wendigoon to get
even
red pills on
even more. And so the JFK files are a whole thing. There's like hundreds of pages of declassified CIA info that you mentioned. My last video about the vampire attacks, part of it actually came from the JFK files. So it's like this book of information. And then what they did is they took stuff like JFK, stuff relating to MLK, Nazi groups in South America, and they released like a few pages and then redacted the rest. And it's like, that'll be another 10, 20 years. Like, all right, so they acknowledge it exists, but they're like, these 40 pages? No. What 24? When we're all dead, that's when you can look at it.
And then the people alive then will be like, nah. Let's push that. Let's kick that can a little further down the road. I haven't. And
then Kyle tells his son, like, you look out for that whenever that comes around.
Well, I don't know if it's true, but it's right here. Zach wrote it. White House delays the release of secret JFK assassination records, citing COVID-19.
Damn,
that sounds like them.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
You can't be reading that on your phone.
Hey, that's what killed JFK.
I've heard it's a good. I've heard the JFK movie is good and entertaining, but like, I don't even know what their claim is for who did it in the JFK movie, like CIA or something, I guess, based on the redacted thing. But we know for sure that that's not the full story in that movie.
Correct.
Like,
yeah,
if the people out there were powerful enough to kill JFK, they're powerful enough to kill someone trying to tell the story of how JFK was killed. You know. Like they wouldn't allow a movie like that to come out if it was really spilling like state secret beans, you know.
There's a lot of weird stuff with the Cubans and with Oswald. I've never thought the mob stuff was particularly compelling, but the Cuban stuff, the all the CIA stuff with Oswald, and then there's that one guy who's all the Ruby stuff is really weird.
Jack Ruby.
Yeah, he was in the mob or mob connected, right?
Yeah, he did. Well, he was more of like an enforcer for random stuff, like mob connection, yes, but he wasn't in the mob. He wasn't like a big member or anything.
Yeah, the whole thing's wild. And then that shot that he supposedly made, I don't know.
And then they killed his brother
after firing 3 shots out of a bolt action in like 2 seconds. Like that guy had sleight of hand on up there.
What's hard to do, and like if you've never like tried to do it in real, if you've only played video games with scoped guns, like shooting the gun and then chambering a new round and then putting it back up to your ear and getting that sight picture and then kind of getting settled into it, like that. It seems quick, but it's precious seconds that you need if you're trying to shoot a guy driving away from you in a fucking Lincoln or whatever.
Is the claim 3? They say it was 3 bolt action shots.
Yes, 3 bolt action shots out of a 6.5 Carcano rifle. As he was driving away, fired in the time span of a little over 3 seconds, if I remember correctly. So the first shot was a miss. It skipped off the pavement and hit a guy who was walking down the street. The second shot is the magic bullet. That's the one that supposedly, hold up, let me think. I'm JFK. It hit him in the neck, went forward into his arm, down into his thigh, out of the front of his knee, into the seat in front of him, and hit the governor in the back, and was perfectly intact. And then the third, that's why when you watch the Zapruder film, he's holding his neck because he had just been shot in the neck. So he's leaned over holding his neck, and then the third shot was the one through the head. So, 3 shots, like super fast from a bookstore window, several hundred feet back. Just a lot of variables happening at once.
So do you not think that Lee Harvey, like, you think he was maybe framed, or where does he kind of fit into the mix?
So yes. Yeah, there's the magic bullet. So, yeah, into the back, then the neck, then the arm, then the leg. And then surprisingly was all in one piece. If in court they call it the magic bullet, yeah, they tend to not do that so much.
Bullets do weird stuff. I don't know about all that shit. And then it being pristine at the end is the real weird thing, because they get all warped up and beat up after hitting bones and stuff. And I don't know.
Looks like there were like 6 points of contact in that graphic. Like that would ball up and fuck a bullet up, right?
If it's
like
Full Metal Jacket, it stays pointy. Like
Really?
Yeah, it's not going to mushroom back. It's going to stay, and that is Full Metal Jacket. It's going to stay together, but it's going to look worse than that. That would be a real pristine bullet if you found that like out on the sand at a firing range, downrange. If you go downrange at like Knob Creek in Kentucky, millions of rounds have been fired that way. And so if you just go down there, start like kicking dirt, you could just piles of the lead, the projectiles, just every kind you can imagine, like, and you can see that not too many are pristine
unless it what?
I got him. See,
No,
I got him.
You guys were so still. I couldn't tell if all of you froze. I'm like, maybe it's me.
No,
You're good. You're good now. You're good.
yeah,
now,
you said
Kyle.
unless they wouldn't be, the bullets would not be pristine unless.
Unless you hit sand or something. It was like we would shoot bullets into that rubber stuff they use for landscaping. You can fill a trash can up with that and use that as a bullet stop. You're doing like ammo tests and stuff. You shoot right in, it'll catch the bullet. The bullet's in pretty pristine condition because it's going through soft rubber. But when you hit dirt and rocks and shit, the bullets get mangled. I don't know. Whenever I've hit animals and recovered them, they were mangled too. I don't know about all that.
So
they call it a magic bullet for a reason. They conspired to kill that guy.
Yeah. What was the
they
Lee
absolutely
Harvey?
did.
Like what? Yeah.
I'm not positive about this one because I haven't dove into the research regarding him specifically. Whenever I was doing my MLK assassination video, I saw this and quickly followed it, and I was like, all right, whenever I remake a full bore JFK video, I will come back to this. But Lee Harvey Oswald was an employee at the bookstore, and according to official records, he was a communist sympathizer. Didn't like JFK. It was during the Cold War, so they just called him a commie because that was the idea. So he he supposedly just decided that he was going to kill the president whenever he heard that the president was going along that area. So I'm sorry, I'm going brain dead right now. Does something need to be said?
No. You're...
Sorry. I heard the mic come on, and I was like, what's going on?
That's never happened before.
Yeah, we heard you typing, Zach.
Audio, and we heard him typing, and
that's why I froze up. I'm like, is this an emergency announcement?
I don't know.
Sorry about that. I thought it was just going to stop. No big deal.
You're good. You're good.
Nukes at last.
Yeah, sorry.
They're getting first they got Kyle, now they got Zach. Anyway,
all of us.
So to stay on the train of thought, supposedly Lee Harvey Oswald just hated the president and the United States, wanted to kill him. According to a report, this was the quick thing I saw, I haven't fully looked into. The initial police report is that because the police ran into the building, that whenever they ran into the building, Lee Harvey Oswald was downstairs working. According to again, this one report that I haven't validated, that he was just downstairs working there, sweeping the floor or whatever. And then one of the police officers was murdered. Supposedly the first guy who ran into Oswald got shot. And then Oswald escaped out of the bookstore and to an old movie theater, if I remember correctly. And then the police followed them there and arrested him. But that initial police report says that when they got in, Oswald was just there. He wasn't upstairs shooting another cop with a gun. And then that report disappeared from the official record later. So the theory is that Oswald was set up to be the fall guy or the patsy. And then later they just took that record out so that it would better fit the narrative that Oswald was the shooter. On top of that, whenever Oswald was being held by the police, he kept saying, I have no idea what's going on. And then whenever they explained the shooting and everything, he said, so I'm the patsy. I'm the fall guy. That's how this is going to work. And then he gets shot by Jack Ruby. So a lot of people are dubious over the Oswald connection.
You think Jack Ruby may have killed him to cover up anything he would have said?
Yeah. So that's the theory. So Jack Ruby was a mob enforcer. He had carried out jobs for. That's why I said he wasn't specifically in the mob. He was more like a contractor. he supposedly just loved the president so much that he decided to shoot the guy as he was being transferred to interrogation out of the kindness of his own heart. So he gets gunned down, and then whenever they arrest him, he's like, "Oh, I just like the president." And it turns out he had cancer, and he died 4 months later. It was 4 months or 4 years, soon after. And if I remember correctly, his family, like, he had family debt and like hospital bills from his cancer that disappeared after he shot Oswald. So,
That's
and that was part of a lot of people throw that towards the mob theory. They're like, oh, maybe the mob hired him to do it to pay off his debt. It's like, yeah, the CIA, that's the mob you're looking for. They have a name and everything. Yeah.
And they can
so that's like the Oswald theory and like the Ruby theory and all that. Of course, it goes into more of like there being a second shooter, the whole grassy knoll thing and all that. So
what is the grassy knoll thing? I've always heard that like as a joke from Dale Gribble in King of the Hill, and I never looked like, what is that theory?
So Kennedy is in the back. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
I just said pocket sand quietly.
Oh,
pocket sand.
my So Kennedy's in the Lincoln. He's going down the street, and Lee Harvey Oswald is in a bookstore behind him, like to his like back right. There is a grassy knoll, as it's been dubbed, which is a small hill underneath a tree by a fence to like his forward right, both on the right side of the vehicle, but the grassy knoll's in front of him. The only footage that we still have is of the shooting is the Zapruder film. That is the film. So there's a picture of the grassy knoll, like up towards where the trees are back there, like the shadowy area. I don't think that wall's still there today, if I remember correctly, but like it's like a little field essentially. So anyway, the only footage that we have is of the Zapruder film. There was a cameraman standing on the same side of the vehicle of the camera shot we just saw, who was filming the whole thing. So he on the opposite side, he would have been over near the grassy knoll filming. So he's filming the whole thing, and he films from that angle as the shots ring out and as Kennedy gets killed. In the footage on the Zapruder film, you can see that there is someone else across the street who is also filming on a camera. So that should be the solution, right? Because if our cameraman, the Zapruder cameraman's back here, and the shooter's over to his right, then the person on the other side of the street should have an angle of that. And supposedly, well, not supposedly, this is a fact, they recovered that footage and brought it into court during the trial that like the movie JFK is about and all that. So, yeah, so see how Zapruder position is like next to the grassy knoll dude? Over there where the mouse is on the right side of the road is where this mystery cameraman was. So anyway, that footage makes its way into court, and it was not shown publicly. It was shown to a private jury. The jury said that the evidence in the footage was compelling. And the next day, whenever they moved to make it public record, they misplaced the tape. And to this day, it's never been recovered. They just the biggest trial ever. They're like, oh, we misfiled it. I guess it's just not here anymore. But according to luck, and according to people,
I hope some CIA guy didn't lose his job over that. Oh my God, can you imagine?
He worked hard to file that paperwork, man. According to the people who did see it, they're at the grassy knoll, which is again the position in the diagram. Whenever Kennedy's head explodes and he actually gets shot, there is a large puff of smoke from the grassy knoll. And that also lines up because Kennedy was in the Lincoln leaned down like this. And whenever he got shot, supposedly from up here, his head jerked backwards and his whole body flew out the back. Which, yeah, your muscles can do weird stuff when you get shot. But it's much more likely if he was shot from the front that his head would shoot backwards like that, rather than getting shot in the back of the head and, having that reaction.
Yeah.
So the idea is that the shooter was in front of him at the grassy knoll rather than behind him at the bookstore. There's also like the three bullets.
I'm in.
The 3 bullets is also widely contested. For example, supposedly the first shot's the one that skipped across the pavement and hit the guy watching the parade go by, right? Well, according to that guy's account, he heard a gunshot and stopped and then looked and then got struck in the leg. So supposedly, again, according to the theory, the grassy knoll guy fired first, and then whoever's in the book, because there was someone in the bookstore, whoever was in the bookstore, that shot is the one that hit him. Because there's no way this guy heard a gunshot and was like, I wonder what that could be. And then that gave enough time for the bullet to skip and hit him.
No, that's not how speed works.
That's not how speed works. Yeah.
It would have to be some wacky shit, but it's possible. That's the fun thing. Like that bullet would have been like ding dong ding, and he hears bang. The bullet's still going bing bang ding. Clip. Like
it's like a Looney Tunes cartoon jumping all around the square. Yeah. And perfectly intact.
Yeah, I never knew how much bullets bust until I started shooting a lot of racers, specifically like not just bang bang bang, but when you've got like a belted machine gun shooting hundreds of tracers at like that area. And you're hitting like trees and stumps and rocks and hard pieces of dirt and soft pieces of dirt and water. Well, let's start making sharp turns that you don't think are like physically possible. They just make a right turn and they're already going 3,000 feet per second and they just hang a left.
I've had that same experience. I shot a saw. People know this is a belt-fed machine gun. It was on the ground with a bipod, and we were shooting it at a car. And after the bullets hit the car, in my mind, they vanish, turn to powder, stop,
disappear.
Yeah.
See, the CIA thinks that way too, actually.
Yeah. But in reality, because they're tracers, you can really see where they're going, and they're just zinging all over the place. Sometimes back at you. They do crazy things. And Kyle's right. Like that story they tell is improbable, but not impossible. So.
What's crazy is it's like, okay, you're expecting me to believe that some wonky shit happened the day a president died. I'm not going to buy that. Look, a president already died today, so I'm going to just assume everything else went like it normally does in our plane of existence and assume y'all had a guy hiding over there, one up there, probably a third we don't know about who just didn't have a clean shot. Like,
right.
I think they conspired to kill that guy, and there's just so many reasons. He was a fly in the pudding, or whatever they say. In the ointment, is it?
Fly in the ointment. Yep.
That's what Biden was talking about. Yeah.
I think I'm a fly in the ointment. Life tries to get rid of me, but I'm stuck like a fly in the ointment.
Yeah, there was a lot of reasons they would have wanted him dead. They also did suspicious stuff that day. Like every time the president goes somewhere, they put Secret Service everywhere. And the day of the Dallas drive, the Secret Service got together and they were like, hey, there's something like, I think the number was 1,200 windows he's going to be driving by. That's too many to cover. Let's just no security today.
I did not know about that.
He's too exposed. No one watch him.
It's just a wasted effort. Let's hope. Like,
like
that
can make
he's
sense
in God's hands now.
Yeah.
Why don't they just say, let's not do it?
Capable hands.
Let's put the fucking top up. Whose idea was the top down? I always think back to that scene in The Office when Michael is driving and Dwight's in the passenger seat of his convertible PT Cruiser, and Dwight thinks it's so cool to let the top down, but it's the middle of winter. And he's like, and he's already unbuckled them and they're coming down and there's no choice anymore. I just imagine that shitty governor of Texas wanted his picture taken with the president. He was like, no, come on. And he's like twisting how
put the top down.
Put the top down. And like the wife is like, fuck, this guy's an asshole. He's like,
is that the view from the grassy knoll?
Oh.
This would have been where the shooter was. Yeah.
Wait, there could be clues on the fence.
All right.
Look, he wrote his name right there.
Wrote it right there. His name's Roy Sanchez.
That's
Roy Sanchez, you son of a gun.
The trees know. I like that.
Yeah.
The trees know. That's pretty good. That goes hard.
That's good.
The trees know. That is good.
That's a lot closer than I thought it was. The way that looks, like I don't know where he was when he got shot in perspective to like where that camera was just sitting. But if you were trying to shoot a guy in that Suburban or whatever down there, that wouldn't be a challenge at all.
I thought that same thing,
play.
but also I don't know. You know how cameras work. I feel like I can't take it at face value.
I was just kind of looking at the sidewalk and the steps and kind of like doing a little.
It's
I
not
feel like
a long
I could
shot
grab
at all. It's like 70, 80 feet maybe. If I remember right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I have a
70,
lens
80
that would
feet.
make that look
He's
like a
super
hard
dead.
shot and an easy
He's
shot.
super dead at 70 or 80 feet.
Especially if you miss and you have a guy to cover your ass.
Yeah, you've got like what's funny is if that's true and they each fired like 3 shots, right? They were horrific. For like a couple seconds, it was like the Wild West, just bam, 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 bam. He's missing all the shots. They're skipping over the car.
Yeah.
Too bad he couldn't like Mr. Magoo his way out of that. Like he reaches down to tie his shoes at the right time. It's like the tires are popping behind him as he's like, sprinting through the street.
That'd be so funny.
Yeah, but that's not the world we live in.
Hey, and then they killed Bobby. And then they killed Bobby. What was that? That guy's name was like Sirhan, right? Something like
Bobby
that.
Kennedy?
Yeah, the guy who showed up and shot him in a kitchen that the CIA, the Secret Service, just let him into, and then he gets shot, and then they burn the evidence.
They have to. They did it.
Yeah, so
it's really weird. I think we might be living. I think that America may have died sometime around that period in history, and we're just like the leftovers.
We're like riding the corpse as long as it'll go.
I guess
Spanish Inquisition. It depends on what your point of view. Yeah. I thought I was reading about that. I thought that was a way bigger thing. Like I thought.
Yeah, not as big as you. It went on for centuries, though, right?
The Spanish Inquisition? No,
I don't think so.
I guess I'm thinking more.
I thought it was like an enormous, like huge.
Yeah, no, witch burning. Yes,
than I thought.
Like vague, random Catholic witch burnings and heresy prosecutions, blasphemies, digging up the corpses of old popes and put them on trial, all sorts of shenanigans.
That's different though. Yeah, I watched the whole. Maybe it was it's one of those animated history channels on YouTube.
They dug up bodies and put them on trial.
Yeah, Pope did.
Former popes.
So
is that gallant behavior? By the way, would that be gallant?
I'd say it's gross
behavior. That's some badass shit. There's been crazy popes. One pope, they made him pope, and he went through so much money, fucking whores and doing drugs that he was broke. So he had rich buddies though, because he's the pope. So he's like, hey, give me, let's call it 20 million in today's money, and you'll be the pope. He's like, are you serious? You'll sell your popehood? Totally sell my popehood. Sold his popehood, 20 million. 2 years later, you know what? Give me the hat back. I want it again. No, for real. Give it back. Took the popehood back. At one point, he dug up the former pope, who he didn't like, obviously, put him on trial. And what I mean by that is the corpse was sat up in a chair and accused. And
the corpse had a defense lawyer, the devil's advocate.
There was a defense for the accused who smelled because he's been rotting for the last year and a half in a hole in Europe somewhere. They found him guilty, believe it or not. They threw him in the river. That Pope's body was thrown in the river.
What was he guilty of? What did they?
Who knows?
Some kind of heresy.
Some buggery.
He probably said something like Jesus was an independent person from the Holy Trinity, and that was just too much.
Yeah, I like the popes have been some of the most evil people who existed.
I bet that was like a really weird day in Vatican City, because I guarantee pretty much nobody was on board for it other than the Pope. But if the Pope is like leading the charge of it, everyone else has to be like, they're like, hey, Saint, what are you doing today? And he's like, you're not going to fucking believe this. I have to defend Pope John V. And they're like, the guy who died? And he's like, yeah. And if I don't, he's going to burn me at the stake. So I'm writing arguments defending a dead guy, right? Like,
but they can't be too good arguments, because you need to lose.
You'd have to play into it. I would play into it. I'd be like, you're right, Pope. We got to get this shit on lock and key. We need to be safe, and let's throw him in the river.
I was just at a Vatican City actually. This is hitting for me because I was at Vatican City like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
How was it?
Just to say sorry.
Just to say sorry.
Just to be like, just to check out what you guys are up to over here.
Seeing what the Christians
that has nothing to do with us. Actually, more to do with him, because
you said Catholic, didn't you? Who said Catholic? Didn't someone say Catholic?
Well, that's the Vatican City.
My family's Catholic, most of them, but
isn't that
really?
Catholic? Isn't that like? Isn't that like?
You're supposed to laugh.
Most Catholics. No, most Catholics.
I get baptized, by the way. I know some people
like
that
solemnly offended.
I need to frown like Drifter with my low hanging lips.
Yeah.
No, most Italians are like most secular Jews in that, like, they're like, yeah, we're part of it too. And they're like, really? When do you do the thing? And it's like Easter, Christmas. And I'm sure for Jews, it's like, oh, I do Yom Kippur. I do Hanukkah. Like, when do you go to temple? Never. I never. Do you ever go to temple, Harley?
Yeah, here and there. Like, when I mean here and there, I mean like once or twice every 5 years. And like, you can't drive on high holidays. So like the amount of times I've gone, because my grandfather's there, and it's like a 6-hour thing, and I park like a 10-minute walk away, and then I walk up and I hang out in the back. And like I see my grandfather after, I'm like, fuck. Like I only go for like the last 30 minutes when he's walking out. I'm like, it was a long one today. Yeah, and then I'm like, gotta walk all the way home now. He's like, yeah, I'll see you later. And I'm like, bye. And then I like walk 10 minutes to my car and drive home.
Wow.
But like, and then it's like, so like, yeah, I'm here because it's important. And that's like really what religion is to me, is that like it's important to him, and like the family gets together here. But I like the rules of it, I would never impose that on someone else or on myself. Like, would you like if you had a friend who was Muslim and they were like, oh, come to a mosque with me and face Mecca and the I don't, excuse my ignorance, go on the rug, the carpet thing and the prayer rug and do the ritual with me today, like, would you do that? I mean, I have friends that like I know people that would.
I don't think they'd want me to do that. I think they'd see that. They'd probably see that as like cheapening their religion.
Let's say a Jew asked you to put on.
You do that.
If a Jew asked you to put on tefillin, let's say, which also a Jew wouldn't do, but then
I'll do whatever a Jew wants me to do. Yeah,
well, you have no choice, buddy, because you know what we'll do to your bank account.
I don't want any more trouble out of y'all.
Shut that right down.
Y'all sucked it to me pretty good about 4 years ago.
FPS Russia passed me in subs, and I got him in jail.
Leave me alone, you and your friends.
Dude,
Kyle,
you got off light, Kyle.
Kyle, did you see the public freakout video where there was a crazy person with a big sign protesting something about Jews control the world? And this dude legit walked up to him and said, excuse me, sir, I'm Jewish and I own this and you can't be here. And he's like, yeah, I figured. So he's like, yeah, the Jews don't own this thing over here. You can go over there. And he's like, all right, thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, and he walks over. The guy's like, Jews control everything. And this like guy comes over. He's like, just like a chubby. He's like, you gotta go. He's like, who the fuck are you? He's like, I'm Jewish. I control everything. You can't be here. He's like, yeah, I can. He's like, you can't. I'm Jewish. I control everything. And the guy like walks away and he looks at the camera. He's like, so there you have it. I'm Jewish. I control everything. And he's just like some like dude.
Oh God.
He didn't even own the property. He's not even.
He looked
Jewish.
like he could have been. He looked like he could have been.
The Catholic and Jewish version of religions sound a lot more fun than Southern Baptist. For Southern Baptists, it was not just like, at least for me, not just a cultural thing you do a couple times a year and celebrate Christmas. It was you go to church 3 days a week, you pray before every meal all the time. God is real. God is watching you. He's keeping a log of every single thing you do. You make one mistake, you go to hell. Demons live just behind the walls. They're going to come get you like
I remember.
Yeah, good times. Good times.
Yeah. I like most of my family's Catholic, but my immediate family like didn't go Catholic. They were like regular like Protestant or whatever. And yeah, they don't hit the stuff as hard as the Baptists, but they're definitely big on hell, big on sin. Don't do that. Feel bad.
I think it's important too. Look, if God's real, they've got then the people who believe in a hell and like bad, like it's I know. Some people, sorry, Harley, don't really believe in a hell and their religion, but I feel like there's got to be some comeuppance. There's got to be, right? Or then
if there's a really good place, there's got to be a really bad place, probably.
If there's no comeuppance for doing the wrong thing, then why would I do his right thing? Because I just don't get it. If we're all going to the gold fucking streets and the clouds or whatever the fuck and the paradise, then why shouldn't I be out for me until the last 5 minutes?
That's probably what a lot of Jews started thinking, and other Jews were like, yeah, we got to switch the system up. We got to come up with a new story because these people are, I don't know what to tell them. Like, we got to figure out something. Like, we got to switch the system up a little bit.
But if you told me that God was real and he wants me to live this humble life where I'm trying to make others happy and live for, and glory to his name or whatever, and blood of the lamb, such and such, then I'd get right on board with that if I thought he was real, though. I could see doing all sorts of violent things in his name. If there was a real God and he told you there were some bad guys you needed to go get, tell me you wouldn't go get them.
But wait, but what's the like two things?
Yeah.
Like in that sense, like then it's just we're the heaven waiting room. Like we create us and put us in the waiting room. And if it's all about heaven, like this is like really short and like I'm being tested, but you made me. So like you did this. I like we did this. This is a collaborative thing. Like, you know, like why'd you make my brain this way and kill my parents? And expect me to like follow the rules. Like you did all this, like, you know. And also if they're like, yeah, if he was like, you gotta kill these people, I'm like, who are they? I'm just tired. I'm tired of being pointed at others and being like, that's them and it's their fault that anything's not good right now.
Then he looks over at me and he says, see, Kyle, that's how they are. Get him. That's why they can't be with
all
us,
these
Kyle.
Jewish goblins come from the underground and they're like, yeah.
You realize that
come hurry.
You realize that Kyle had begged God to give you and your people one last chance and you had just spoiled it.
And I was like, how much it gonna cost? I said before the sorry, I was go ahead. I was gonna talk about Islam again, so like it's not important to you.
I guess I'm kind of bordering on that because their whole thing is like they're like, hey, God hates these people and what they're doing. They gotta go. Like that's his thing. He told Abraham, he told this guy, and now that's what we do. We kill them when they don't do that, when they do that thing they're doing over there, and they're out to get us, and it's, you know, with us or they're dead. That's how it is, you know. Man, if you believe that, it's time to get a fucking vest, right? Like it's time to go, right? If there was a
like
real God
really
who's telling me that some people had to go, it's like, all right, how do I do it? What do you want me to do?
Yeah, if you believe it's God, that's why so many people do things like that when God tells them. Because like, if you really believe that God tells you to do something, like people tend to do it.
See, if God's the real deal, if a true believer like that just becomes schizophrenic or, you know, loses their mind in some way where they're hearing a voice and they have this strong belief in a God already, and now the voice, because of their mental illness, is taking that role on and is saying, hey, God here, you know, the guy you've been learning about and worshiping your whole life, do I have some shit for you to do? Oh, did your girlfriend do clown makeup?
But is God?
That's what God said.
Apologies.
Yeah.
I'm roasting in here. It's like 80 degrees, and that is not an easy wig to be in.
Sorry, this is latex paint.
I think it's scarier with your natural hair.
Everything's been getting crazier.
The juxtaposition between normal hair
and the headset too.
Yeah. Well, this is coincidental. I just got this in the mail because I'm sponsored by Logitech, and the only color they had is white.
Oh, they make good stuff.
Thank you.
The long hair. It's like if you dyed that green.
Yeah, they love white on PKA. That'd be great.
We like it to pop.
I was saying, like, even if you didn't go into a mosque or something, but if you had a buddy and he was like, dude, I'm doing the daily prayer. Yeah, I'd love if you join me. And like, maybe that's not really Muslim of him to have someone, an infidel like yourself.
Yes.
But like, you know, would you do that? Because I know lots of people like would not, or someone, if a guy was like, you know what, let me baptize you. I'd love to baptize you. I know a lot of people that would be like, absolutely,
that's a big deal.
Not. And then it's like, it's interesting because like the people that like are really not Catholic or Christian or whatever, they're so not about it. Like, because I don't believe in that stuff. No, do not touch me with that water, motherfucker. Don't even bring it. And it's like funny because it's like, you don't even, you know, you're gonna get baptized. You scared? But I thought that's not. But I thought
on you and your
I thought it's just silly. Yeah, it's just water. No, it's not, you know. But like for some people,
water means though. Like for those who don't know, and fast forward, like it's you're taking on the new covenant with God and Christ. You're saying that no longer am I part of the Old Testament where we must sacrifice animals to get rid of our sins. Jesus Christ is my savior. I wash myself of my sins here and now and forever because he is my Lord and Savior, and through him I will be clean. You're making a big decision right then and there and making a statement
for sure,
public in front of the whole
but if someone who is like, oh, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in all that, and another person was like, oh, cool, will you do me the favor and let me baptize you? I'm sure a lot of those people are making this all up, but I'm sure a lot of the people would be like, oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And it's
I'm
like,
sure
what?
they
Let me
wouldn't.
just put a little bit of right. I would assume, because why not? Logically, if you don't care, why wouldn't you let it? But it's still a lot of weight to the prayers. Like doing like if you put on like to fill in like the Jewish like leather thing, or you did like that Islamic prayer, and it wasn't something that you grew up doing or committed to doing, and you were just like doing it as a thing for your buddy. It has like some weight to it, and that just comes from a person who's not like that. And maybe it's just because I walked around all these like cathedrals and churches like in Italy and stuff that are like so crazy and magnificent. But I was just thinking about like how just we've been with religion and all that. And I'm
That
like,
ritual's
I'm not a religious
powerful.
guy. There's a lot of weight to doing that stuff. If you went down and like literally were on your knees and, did the whole thing.
This
like
is where Woody and I really disagree because
he's
we'll
not
talk
here.
about
He's a
demons.
bitch though, right? Admit it. Taylor wouldn't
So
admit
bad.
it before. Say it.
Oh my God.
I'm filling in the role of Woody today.
I'm kidding.
I can be your Woody.
With the
can
demons
be-
and stuff. We'll I don't know. We'll find a story about demon worship or something, and Woody's like, "Sign me up! It's just gobbledygook," and it's like, ooh, the same way that if Taylor found out he was going to be dead in 6 months, he'd be fucking doing mission work and praying to the Lord. I will not look. I don't believe, but I don't disbelieve so thoroughly that I'm going to take any risks with demons. Okay,
Wise choice.
I'm not
Very
so
wise choice.
sure that I'm sure enough that there is no God that I ain't going to church, and I'm not going to talk to him unless it's a code red emergency. But I believe in demons enough that I'm not going to like offer my soul to them, and like I'll tell you what, I would say it here joking, like, take my soul, Dark Lord. But what I wouldn't do is like if someone sent me an old book with some Latin in it, I wouldn't be reciting.
Like, sign it in blood.
They're like, cut your name here, and write in your own blood on this page out of a Orthodox Bible that this and that and the other, and then take this stamp and rub the blood on it and put it there. Like, nah, man, I'm not. Nah,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think I do any of that. I've seen this movie before.
Like, if I buy in that this is real, then I'm already buying into playing for the side that is going to lose. Yeah. Like, why would you?
Oh, no, that I don't believe. So I think that God lied to us. I like this theory too. This is what I hope happened. I hope that Satan, or the Morning Star, as I prefer to call him, was the good guy, that he wanted mankind to have all of the abilities of the angels, but also the falsehood that man has. He wanted us to be because maybe like what God is half what we are and half what an angel is, and he split his grace and made two different beings that he could lord over. And so if the angels would come down, if it turned out that Satan wanted to give us that power and he was the good guy and that God was the bad guy, and the whole Bible and Christian religion are propaganda, and the devil's like, no, read the truth, my son, and like showed us the truth. That's the movie I want. That's the reality I want.
But that's in the Bible. I bet the devil's basically sick. That's the Bible. Like, because so I Bible study background, whatever. Satan tempts Eve not with the fruit of life, but with the fruit of knowledge. There's two trees in the garden. The first is the fruit of knowledge, and the second is the fruit of life. They give her the fruit of knowledge, and then she immediately realizes, I want the fruit of life. And as she is going toward it with Adam, I believe one of the angels or God say, we absolutely must stop them from eating from the tree of life, or they will be immortal like us, or something like that. So there is an element of that very much so in the Bible. And even earlier in like different translations and stuff, Satan, the word Satan primarily meant adversary. He was sort of a devil's advocate in God's court. It was his job that God gave him specifically to tempt people, to test them.
So imagine the afterlife, and it's just like a character create screen, and you're choosing like Horde or Alliance. It's like heaven and hell. You're like, what's going on though? Like, what's going on there?
Damn, hell's got some really cool Hugo Boss suits.
I was really hoping you were going to say
Michael the Archangel, and he's like, honestly, man, it's like pretty similar in a lot of ways. And you're like, what do you mean? He's like, it's like the same.
I think that Satan probably did it out of jealousy, where he was created and
to serve.
One of his main, he was created to serve. All the angels were, and he pridefully believed it was jealous that the Lord then made humans because he thought you've already perfected creation with us. We're more impressive in every way than these beings. But they betrayed God and said, no, we're not going to follow you. And so he leaned into the humans. And so the way that Satan strikes back against God is by corrupting that which God cares most for, which is
That's
humans.
the second movie, Satan Strikes Back.
Satan Strikes Back.
Yeah, it's a
That's
trilogy.
pretty much accurate. That's how that works. Satan fucks with us just to fuck with God, at least according to most theology.
It's the way he can undermine what God cares about, which
that's why, honestly, like at the end
Return of the Magi.
end of the Torah, they're like, people aren't buying this shit anymore. We need the story's great. They love the story, but we need a hero and a villain.
Yeah,
we're gonna need a hero and a villain for part 2 here.
Well, I mean, you got a great villain in Satan, the ultimate villain. Like, and you're not going to knock Satan out in the first.
Well, that's
movie.
why I'm Jewish, but like I don't know, that shit you guys got going on is pretty sick. Like I became a GI Joe collector because I loved Cobra, you know, and I'm like Satan's like fucking sick Cobra, like angels are pretty cool too, though. Archangels, they have like sword.
Have you met the devil
wings.
in Baldur's Gate yet?
No, I haven't, but I will try and fuck him.
He does not
Good luck.
interested in that, I don't think. But he's pretty slick with the.
That's not on brand. It seems like he'd be all about that.
I think his name is Raphael. He'll appear over and over and kind of be a bit adversarial. He really does seem like the Christian devil, though. He sort of tempts you and takes you to.
Well,
a
that's
paradise.
definitely the most common devil.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's
like
the biggest
that.
religion, so that makes
Which
sense.
is based on Hades, kind of.
Yeah, based on.
Did you guys play the game Dante's Inferno? It was kind of like a
God of War clone, kind of.
Yeah, it was like a God of War clone, but it was really good. I thought it was amazing that you get to cleanse or murder unbaptized babies. They're like one of the key enemies. But you fight Satan as the final boss, and he's like 12 foot tall, and he's got this monster like 12-inch dong that's like flopping around in your character's face for the whole fight.
Have you seen the movie?
He has to be offensive even as he fights. That's Satan's.
Have you seen the movie?
You have
Dante's
to beat him in a
Inferno?
rock off.
Yes, I think so.
So there's an animated movie from 2010, I think, called Dante's Inferno.
This is made from the same game, by the way. I think this is connected, by the way. I think
it is. It is. It was a promo for the game.
Yeah, and it is sick, and that's why the game is like that story too. It's cool.
The book is good too. If you want to read the book, don't read Purgatorio or Paradiso. They're boring.
Man, war is horrific. I'm so glad. My dad used to say it all the time. I'm sure he still does if I prompted him. But
you just said it like he was dead.
I know, right? But like every day we'd be hanging out together. And he'd be like, so what a beautiful day to be alive. So good. So good. There's nobody over there to fight. Like we'd see the news or something. Like we don't have to do battle for this land over here. This is our land. You know, nobody's coming to fuck with us. Like this is just ours, and we never have to even worry about.
Because someone else is fighting your fight for you right now, and you should appreciate that.
We gave that guy discounts at AutoZone. Enough is enough.
Oh my God. I use that card all the time, that AutoZone discount card.
Your veterans card?
Oh, no, my uncle worked at AutoZone. It's just same discount. And he kept his letter.
Started at the bottom, worked his way all the way to the top.
Dude, they always ask me if I'm a veteran, and I'm like, no.
Oh my God! Just steal a little valor.
I'm a pussy.
No, dude, I can't lie.
I'm really the only one that's ever stolen valor.
Yes.
At Subway.
How do you?
What's the deal?
How did you do it?
But he started slicing the meat, and I freaked out because Blade reminded me of my time in the Middle East. I steal valor for Vietnam.
Tell me you're a tunnel rat.
I was a tunnel rat. They had this weird reverse aging serum. I stole a lot when I was under the ground in the tunnels.
Dude, tunnel rats are so hardcore. I've talked about it before, but that one doc where the guy was a tunnel rat and they're interviewing him in his living room, and it's kind of rundown place and everything, and he's a rundown guy. It's like 20 years after Nam, and he's like, yeah, they send me down in the holes with my 45 and my bayonet, and I crawl. Most of the time, you'd smell before you seen him. You'd smell him yards away. They had a spicy stink to him from that food they eat.
You could smell You could smell them. They smelled like, imagine sweat and spices mixed together, a lot of spices, real spicy. They just had an odor to them.
And I'd come up on, and he's talking about he had a necklace of ears. He's like, I had a special bayonet that I had customized for chopping heads off. And I had a whole bunch of heads and I had a whole bunch of ears. And she's like, what happened to them? He's like, they took them when I come back through, the customs or whatever, took my ears and your knife, took it too, took my chopper. And then she was like, if you could go back, she's like, do you regret anything you did? He's like, hell, I'd go back now and go back to killing if they'd let me. I loved it. I wish they'd send me back now.
It was almost like being a blind person. And you went by touch and smell and hearing. You think people seen big rats. These were like dogs. I mean, they were big. They used them a lot of time in that first section of the tunnel going in, because usually an American would back out if he seen 6 or 8 of them. They'd come up to you, and a lot of them would even rub your body, crawl over you. But I had never had none bite me. I'd usually crawl on past them. And of course, they can't order you to be a tunnel rat. You got to volunteer. I said, sure, I'm ready for it. That's let me pick my weapon. There were very few people that would do it. You could touch things and feel and tell what it was. Sometimes guys touched the wrong things. I'm not going to say I wasn't scared. There was a little place in the back of my head for that, but you had to get rid of that or you get claustrophobic. Fear can be a bad emotion. It can shake you up so bad that you can't function. So that's why I always tried to keep that adrenaline ready. When I knew I was possibly, or 9 chances out of 10, going to get a kill, that adrenaline was flowing so high that nothing else mattered but that kill.
So what would happen if you would encounter an enemy?
Well, it'd be either him or me. If you encountered him first, you shot him, and vice versa. A lot of them would hesitate. I don't know why they'd hesitate. I don't know if it was because of total surprise. I had one get the drop on me, but I shot him and killed him.
I was crawling, really dirty as hell, the ears rotting around my neck, and I'd hear a few feet in the distance some ching chong bing bong horse shit. Nothing upset me more than smelling their disgusting fish sauce entrees as I was crawling towards them.
Are you reading something? If this is off the top, that's crazy. That's real life. That's literally speaking from the heart.
The power of improv.
This dude was having none of it. He was like, we'd find our boys all cut up and tortured, and they'd make them look bad to scare us. And it didn't scare me none. It made me mad. And it was like, oh, this guy's awesome.
Yeah, right.
That's what the aliens aren't ready for when they come here.
I had a manager early in my career. He was a Marine, and he used to tell me, like, the people you want in the Army at peacetime are not the same people you want at wartime. And guy Kyle's talking about is a guy you want at wartime.
Dude, I was listening to this podcast recently, and the guy was in Korean War, so he's old as shit. But he was so braggadocious and lighthearted about it. Like, I don't think he's lying, but at the same time, it's like, dude, really? He's like, I've got the record for most hand-to-hand kills. There was many a time where I could have shot him, but I chose to beat a man to death instead. I just like to rattle their cage, and I was good at that sort of thing. And I've
He's
also
trying to get play of the game, doing all knives.
Dude,
like
for
that.
real. He said he killed over 10,000 with his artillery strikes alone. He's like, I was calling in the artillery strikes on the Chinese in North Korea, like easily 10,000 kills from that alone. He's like, I killed another 400 with rifle fire and hand-to-hand tactics. I killed at least, and it was like dozens he'd beaten to death. It was crazy, the stories he was telling.
I think visually on sight, like I think like going up against the Japanese, or just like Asians on site at war, like I feel like that's scarier to me than if I were going up against some white men.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
If I saw white dudes out there, that's different. If
The Russians are a little messy with it. You know what I mean? They've been I see them torturing like Ukrainians.
No, for sure. But
in World War II, though,
yeah, exactly.
It wasn't
That'd
like
be
that.
Scary, bro. Asians running through the smoke like that. They got those silly hats, and they're like kamikaze piloting with the bayonet, like they're coming for you, and they're just about it more than I'm about it. I think
my father-in-law was in the Korean War, and he would talk to me about it sometimes, and I'm like 19, just trying to have him not hate me, agreeing with everything he says. So he wasn't like some super badass who had the record for hand-to-hand combat or anything, but he was a strong guy. He owned a weightlifting gym. He was a fireman. He was like intimidating to sit near. And he's telling me about his time in the Korean War. Anyway, he was upset because the Koreans kept coming to their camp, base, whatever it was, and robbing them. They just steal food, whatever they could get their hands on, and leave. And he's like, they did it to the Turks too, but the Turks, they'd kill them. And they put their head on a pike. They had Korean heads, and they stopped stealing from them. So I wanted to do that here, but the Americans wouldn't put dead bodies on pikes in front around the camp to show what they did to people who stole. And I'm just like, agree, like, yeah, that's you should.
That'd be sick. I would do it. I would help you.
Yeah,
I'll pick the head.
You want to get some pikes around here? I don't know. I'm just trying to get you to like me.
I had some pikes ready for this.
Woody, the reason that they do the pike thing on the head is like how many different societies figured that out at different places, thousands of miles apart, where they're like, we really need to inspire fear. Head on a pike. Mm-hmm. Like everywhere independently.
Yeah, it's like, dude,
out.
we were just like, no, we were on our way like conquesting to other lands, and we passed this village, dude. You know what they did? Genius idea. They took the heads and had them all set up. Yeah. We killed them all. We raped them and killed them. But that, like, I could see how that would deter someone who wasn't as crazy as
and
that.
what we did,
there were no survivors because these were scary people.
And they told us that we weren't allowed to do heads on pikes, and so we stole their heads on pikes.
Imagine it's not just random heads on pikes; it's your boys, right? Oh shit, Woody's up there on a pike, and it's like, Taylor, I don't think we want to.
Dude, I'd be like right next to it.
For my head, they would
right next to it like this. Like with the Woody hat.
God damn it, this one keeps tipping over.
Little candy apple.
They got like a little proto tent holding me up. You know what? Just throw it in the fire. This one's not worth it. It's just making a joke out of us.
I was going to say, I think I'd be good at running the educational system of this country. I feel like I'd be the guy, the one you'd want to call upon to make that happen. Because when I hear food science, I just think that's a wasted elective. Like that.
Really?
Most of them. I feel like most of the electives, the only history
just
they teach in high school, like in high school, did they teach you anything beyond like the basics of American history and World War II? I feel like everything else I know came from the History Channel.
Dude, it was like American history was literally the complexity that the Simpsons made fun of in that episode when Apu becomes a citizen, and he's like, what the guy's like, Mr. Whatever, what caused the Civil War? And he's like, oh, that is a very specific question and interesting because it was very multifaceted and different. He's like, just say slavery. He's like, slavery it is then. And then they go on and he becomes a citizen. That's what
they taught us the Civil War was about. There was a little time in the 80s when the motivation for the Civil War was taught to be that the South was trading with Europe and the North wanted the South to trade with them kind of exclusively. And that's what the war was about. That's not what the war was about. Like literally states are pulling out of the Union saying we want to own black people. And my school system bent over backwards to like remove that part from the motivation. Silly.
Yeah, like that's what the history was like.
Much that we once knew has been lost.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a little bit of knowledge that we lost there. They erased the truth from Woody schools.
They did. Or maybe they implanted the truth. Ooh, little X-Files.
Maybe there was no Civil War. You ever think of that?
No, Never
Do you know
considered that.
Do you know a single Civil War veteran? Do you know anybody who was a slave or owned a slave? I'm not sure any of that happened.
I don't know any slave owners.
Yeah, it's just this story that
Nor
for
any
some
slave.
reason, all of a sudden, the northern states have some sort of like something over on the southern ones, and you were bad. Those are the racist states. No, I think it's a big ploy, big democratic ploy.
Yep, those dastardly Democrats came in there. Well, what did you get taught? Did they just say slavery for you?
Yeah, well,
What do they
Mr.
teach you in
Mackinson,
Georgia.
Mr. Mackinson showed us a video called. The title of the video was "The Civil War Was Not About Slavery." That was the name of the cassette that he put into the VCR and wheeled that little TV out for us. He was also a member of the Sons of the Confederate Veterans who came and put on a performance for us one afternoon. We all got to go out in the field behind the high school and sit Indian style out there in the grass and watch them put on their Confederate uniforms and march about, wave their flags and such. And
Was it realistic? Did they get their asses kicked?
I believe the South won. Didn't the South win more battles?
Yeah, the South
they
won
did.
a lot more battles. But
So yeah, it was
I don't
realistic.
remember.
They won the battle.
It's so funny how people like every war is
There
like,
wasn't a battle.
The winner is like, yes, I win in like a Titan, and like usually it's pretty close.
But so no, I wouldn't say there was any propaganda hammered home. Like there was just that one day where we watched that cassette, and then that other day where we watched them go out there and bandy about in their uniforms and such. The only reenactment I've ever seen, which is when you've got the North versus the South, and they're shooting the blanks.
The South did not win more battles. I googled it.
Was it Wings House?
Yeah, of course, the northern website would say that.
You guys,
Google.
I don't trust this Missouri, Georgia little factoid. I'm going to check this out. I'm fact checking this.
What is that?
When the North is allowed to count the battles, suddenly the numbers are skewed.
I'm like, how did they win more battles and lose? Which can happen. I think that's what I'm told about Vietnam. But I
think that's what we did in the American Revolution. I think didn't Washington lose at least as many as he won? His thing was he was a good
lost
retreater.
a lot. But we won the bigger battles, right?
Washington kept retreating, battle after battle, but he did a good job of it. He'd save his cannons. He'd keep his men alive, and he'd live to fight another day.
That's the problem. The South was a regular season team. The playoffs came around, and the big battles, when they mattered, the North won.
Gettysburg.
So Gettysburg. That's a big one.
They always ask, what would you do if you had a time machine? Go to Gettysburg.
You'd flip that. You'd bring a machine gun.
Oh, I just want to watch. What are you talking about? Crazy? No. I wouldn't want the South to win. That would be terrible. If the South had won the Civil War, it would be awful. The whole like what happens during World War II then? You know what I mean? Unless the South
there'd be two
what they
countries
did
then.
Unless
So,
the South unless they do what they did in the CSA, which is a fantabulous little mockumentary that I go on about every time this topic comes up. And they conquer the North. Lincoln flees to Canada in disgrace. He's later captured. So is Harriet Tubman. They were on the flee together. Harriet Tubman's quoted as saying, "Mr. President, we both ninjas now." And then after they're done conquering the North, then they conquer all of Mexico and a little bit more of South America. Like they keep going. And they have a border wall with Canada. So there's a real potential for a Canadian war.
I wasn't liking it, but all of Mexico and a lot of South America.
And the Caribbean,
country,
the Caribbean, all that stuff. Yeah, they just keep going.
That's kind of that's a better country, right?
So that'd be a better.
We have the whole U.S.
Sure.
and
for most of us, not for Black folks though. That would be a problem.
I don't think. I think Black people would not be in favor of that country. Also, in real life, I don't know. Does the South take the North or just secede? Like was their plan?
No, they would have just seceded. Yeah.
And there's no way if the South went, like the North rebuilt the South. You guys were broken and worthless, and we built you up again.
Worthless.
So, yeah.
We needed you to keep us alive for the next winter, so we quickly helped you build your buildings that we burned.
Yeah, we were running a scorched earth Civil War campaign.
Please, you weren't worth shit. You hadn't done anything. Your slaves did all your work for you. So the North, also a working
like saying
society. Hey, that's my story. I'll tell it how I want to. And, so we came down there and rebuilt your ruined society that we wrecked for kicks and shits and giggles. And I doubt the South would have done the same noble act.
Yeah, the South. I don't know. Did the South burn a bunch of northern cities?
Well, they weren't really the pinnacle of morality.
I think you have a skewed view on Reconstructionism.
Don't you tell me, Mr. Dull.
That we did learn about. We learned about those carpetbaggers. I remember that being a fucking vocabulary word. We learned
that. Yeah.
I
remember carpetbaggers.
Those cocksuckers coming down here. No,
we were in the middle though. Missouri we were waiting it out. We were seeing who was going to win.
Both sides.
We played both sides, so we always come out on top. The Mac of states.
I must be mixing up Missouri with another.
But yeah, when I drove to Wing's house, it was
like split Mason-Dixon line.
It was so weird. There was a Civil War battle happening 5 minutes from his house, like in a field. Like they were rolling up on each other, north versus south, shooting black powder and cannons.
Damn, man! Any sort of cannon war. After seeing that Shogun clip and then going on YouTube and watching some of those chain shots, turns out a lot of the examples they have of those like ball and chain, like swinging shots, I guess that was huge in naval battles because they aimed at masts and you could just rip a mast down. And then once the ship has no mast, it's like, all right, you guys got to either surrender and give us your shit or we're just going to win. Like we're going to steal up, we're going to kill you.
We'll swing back around in 2 weeks when you're hungry.
Yeah. And so, a naval battle would have been hell, especially with those cannons. You ever seen the end of Master and Commander?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a sick scene. He's walking down those stairs. Everything's blowing up.
The sea is no joke. So I've been watching these sailing videos. Have you guys seen these on YouTube? There's like a whole genre that Sailing Vagabond, I can't say it, created. And now just, oh my God, one fucking sexy couple after the next sailing around the Caribbean. And I saw this woman. She wasn't a couple. She was by herself. And seemingly there's no land anywhere. But she must not be too far because she found a coral reef. And she goes out swimming by herself. There's barracuda everywhere. And she's like, feisty barracuda. Shoo. I'm like, dude, that's scary. But what's double scary is like, what if her anchor gives way? She's alone. There isn't another sight in 360 degrees. The horizon is all water. And she's out paddling around the coral reef. Like just
that sounds
checking out.
So scary. I would want
sounds like her. That sounds like she's a smart video maker and her boyfriend is below deck. Waiting to give her some back shots and help her edit.
She'd have to be really smart. There's no boyfriend stowed.
Did you get the footage?
It's like a 27-foot boat. Like I'd see the other people.
No, you throw me the camera, then I'll throw you the ladder.
There was another one. These people were in 15,000 feet of water and they decided to go swimming. And what they do is they throw a line out with a fender on it, which is like an inflatable bumper to stop you from hitting the dock. It floats. And anyway, so now we've got a line with a fender and they jump out and they hold that so that the boat doesn't get away from them. And it's this guy and the girl. They're like 2 feet away from the boat holding this line. And she goes, let's go out to the fender. And he says, what? No, I don't want to do that at all. And he did, to his credit. But it's just like, I don't know. Standing on the edge of a cliff.
Hover technology, like loiter technology? There should be a computer that tells the boat engine how to loiter. Like sit right here. Like you don't have to sit still. I'm not making a rifle shot, but I'm going down there to get some oysters or whatever the fuck. Don't leave me.
I don't think you even want that, right? Because like what you wanted to do is drift like you do.
And to be fair, if you're going down for something, then clearly there's enough room for an anchor. But in 15,000 feet of water, though, that's I guess it doesn't matter if it's 15,000 or 15, but something about looking down and having no. It matters when you look down.
Yeah, you look down and it's just an abyss of fear.
Yeah, but I drown in either one. You drown in a fucking puddle.
Something feels. It happens to me when I'm flying. I fly routinely. Like my happy place is somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000 feet, and every once in a while I go to 5,000, and it's like, whoa, hold on tight. Is this safe? As if 5,000 is more dangerous than 3. It's the same death, but swimming feels like that too. Like I felt safe in 8 feet of water, but not in 80.
Yeah, and you get accustomed to those heights. Like I've worked on roofs before, and after a while, like 12 or 15 foot roof, even if you go up to the peak or whatever, and you're really up there, like maybe 15. All right, I'm not that scared. I wouldn't die. Hell, I'd hit it hard, but I'd get back up. You're not even afraid of it anymore. And then you go like one story higher and you're like, oh no. Oh, you're like sweaty palms. My feet just got sweaty thinking about it.
Kyle, what's the show you recommended for me? Rome?
Yeah, Rome.
Yes.
Rome. Okay. So in Rome, there's a character. His name is Octavius, and he's really smart. It's kind of his whole thing. He's the smartest guy in every room. Even when he's like a young teenager, he's smarter than the adults. And they're teaching him to sword fight so that he can be a man. And he's not really taking to it, but the guy teaching him polio is really cool, and he's like patient with him. And he's like, no, you'll get it. You just need to practice more. What he's saying is as you do this more, you'll get stronger and in shape and improve at it. And this is what he said. At best, all I could ever be is a middling sword fighter. And it's better not to be a sword fighter than a middling sword fighter.
Yeah.
And I was like,
graveyards are full of middling sword fighters.
Did he say that too? I missed that part. And I don't know, somehow that it's better to be not a fighter than a middling one. I'm like, oh, that's some fucking wisdom right there. He's onto something.
It's true.
Yeah, that's Caesar Octavius. That he was a very smart guy. He spent his childhood reading about the stuff the Greeks had written, and just I loved his character. Even later on when they recast him with what's his name? I can't think of that actor's name. I don't know if you watched it all, right? All of it?
Not all of it, but I have made it to the next actor.
You can spoil it.
Okay.
It's ancient Rome.
Yeah, it's Roman history. I was just wondering if he'd seen that actor yet that they recast him. I think it's really good. It's another one of those things like Deadwood that also got canceled because they just came out a little bit before the golden age of TV, or at least before we were ready for what that was. Because those are just really well produced, great stories, and they're historical dramas too, which I like. I like when you take something that happened, make it a little bit fancier. Tell me about a whore who existed back then too. She's there. She's running around getting dick. Add her. Like sauce up the story, make it a little better for me. Gladiator is a great example of that, right? Like those are real Romans and real shit that happened mostly. Commodus was really a Roman emperor. All that happened, but you beef it up and make it amazing. That's what Ridley Scott's doing again. I don't got that dog. Let me shut the dog up.
Ridley Scott is.
Yeah, I don't know my history that well, so I just assume it's all true. But I am enjoying the show. It's a blast. The first season, Kyle told me that the show ends a little early, so they have to rush and sort of put a bow on the storyline. Yeah. What happens at the first season ends how I expected the whole storyline to end. I'm like, where are they even going from here? And now I'm learning. So. Yeah,
it's frustrating to watch. Like I almost don't want to rewatch that show because it has so much potential. Yeah, I saw it many years ago, and I remember it being sick, like awesome. But they just sprint to the finish. Like you're like mad as it's going because you're like, oh no, you're not going to flesh that out. It's just gonna. Oh, the next scene
season was a sprint.
The first season is fast, and then the second season is like, oh, between scenes 9 years passed. Like that's like literally shit like that. It's absurd. You're watching like, God, I wish they could have fleshed that out more with whatever that main actor is. The really dark haired guy. I don't know what his name is, but he's great.
Like in the first season, Caesar travels back to Rome. Okay, big spoiler. You might be surprised. Rome. Yeah. Caesar goes to Rome. And but like I was like, if this was Game of Thrones, they would take 1 or 2 years to sort of define the landscape, the players, the travel from here to there, the war with the Gauls and the people in his army, they would be building that up. Here, by like episode 3 or so, he's defeated an entire enemy race, and now he's home again.
He's conquered all of the Germanic and Celtic peoples. Like that's the part you'd love to see, right? Just nothing but war and big battle scenes. Yeah. But you could tell they didn't have money for that. They didn't have any money for any of the battle scenes.
Oh, you're right. Sometimes I forget about like the why.
So expensive. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so expensive to do a battle scene because you don't want to do a shitty one. You'd rather do something sort of like
they did a shitty one.
A big battle that happened.
I forget which battle scene it was, but like there's basically like foggy photos where there's a guy like, and another guy, and then like whatever, tall dude won, and you're like, you just robbed me of an entire war.
Now imagine a war.
Close your eyes with us.
It's incredible. Huge feats of strength and heroism are happening all around you as the camera pans through the turmoil. Okay, are you going to show us any of this? Here's the blurry screen. Sword shield. Yeah, it sucks when they do that. That's what early Game of Thrones was like too, though. If you remember the Whispering Woods, we didn't see shit. That's a huge battle where Jaime Lannister cuts down some of the best swordsmen in the North by himself. We didn't see any of that shit. We saw a little part where they hit him in the head and they catch him at the end. And then the battle where the big naval battle where they're at King's Landing, they cut to Tyrion's face and show him react to the shit that's happening. So they didn't have the money there. That shit's so expensive when you get into that CGI. Yeah.
They blew all their money on the wildfire explosion.
So I was going to say before my dog went crazy, Ridley Scott, who made Gladiator, has now made Napoleon with Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon. It's like 3.5-4 hours long or something. And it'll be on, I'm sure they'll put it in theaters, but then it'll be on Apple TV sometime thereafter. The trailer looks awesome. Just huge epic scale Napoleonic era battles in Egypt, Russia, the entire, and there's this the trailer I saw, he's like, I have conquered the world. I went to the frozen north of Russia, and they cut to a scene of him in Russia like shooting cannons on people on the eyes, to the plains of the west, to the sands of the far, and it's great because Joaquin Phoenix is doing kind of a French accent and he's good at that. I'm super hyped for that movie.
That sounds sweet.
I love those I love that he's not making any more alien shit. Ridley Scott's done enough of that. And
what else has he done that I might know? I've seen Aliens.
Gladiator, Black. I think he did Black Hawk Down. And I'm spacing out on some of the other stuff. He did
those
Alien.
Two are good enough. Those are excellent movies. I love those movies.
Alien, and I think he did Prometheus and the other Alien sequel.
Prometheus was kind of
yeah. He's real into the backstory of the aliens, and I feel and I don't.
And
care.
I'm not. Yeah,
that should be like left a mystery, but that's neither here nor there. But I am really pumped for that Joaquin Phoenix movie.
When's
I like him
out?
a lot. I think next month. I think November. Pretty sure.
I haven't seen a movie in theaters in years, and so maybe I'll make that one that I see. I've thought on multiple occasions over the past couple of years, like, I want to go see a movie. Like, that sounds like fun. And then I Google what movies are on, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to force myself to go to the movies to watch something I'm not interested in.
You know what part of it is? Part of it is it is so nice to watch at home. On a good TV for free. But I keep every now and then on Reddit, they're like, this guy tried to get into the seats he reserved. Here's what happened. And he's just getting assaulted by 3 or 4 people in a movie theater because he wanted to
what
sit
kind of people?
The kind who sit in your reserved fucking seats and then think that they're being singled out when you ask them politely if they would please not sit in the seats that you paid special for and have reserved here on your phone. See the little thing here? It means I sit there. Yeah. Why are you killing me? Colonialist, what?
Colonial. It's like, see how on my phone seats 16 and 17 are blue and the rest of the seats are gray? Wait, don't
get off
me.
The phone call. You could look at yours and tell that your seat's down there somewhere.
I mean, the last I feel like not many people go to the movies anymore. The last one I went to was Joker, probably 4 years ago when that came out, and I saw it pretty close to the release date, I feel, and even that was like, that was the last movie I saw.
I was like a young man when that stupid fucking movie came out.
I think it was 2019. I haven't been out of the game
That's
too
an
long.
Excellent movie. The sequel,
it was a good movie, but even that theater was not full.
Overrated movie.
Oh, I thought it was
what's
really
the Rotten
good.
Tomatoes of Joker with Joaquin Phoenix?
I bet it's
the
go
the sequel comes out soon.
Why was it terrible?
The sequel.
Well, it was long and droning. It was like there was one scene played over and over again. It was one note is a better description. Just played for. Was that movie 4.5 hours long? I don't know. It felt like 5.5 hours. It was ridiculous. A little lower than I expected.
2 hours and 2 minutes.
Yeah, 88 on 50,000.
That was only
ratings.
2 hours. That
Yeah.
movie felt like I honestly thought it was going to be closer to 3.
Yeah,
No,
not 4. Like
you didn't enjoy how they built the tension throughout it of you're seeing him crack Like he's starting off in
He's
a
off the
very
meds.
bad place, and then he like almost the vibration of it increases to the really cool culmination when he's like, "Time, how about another joke, Murray?
Murray,
Murray, what do you get when you cross?" And like he fucking blows De Niro's head off. That was awesome. Like that was such a good like. I like slow burn movies though, and I enjoyed that.
Do you remember that? There's a speech at the end of Julius Caesar where I think it's Mark Antony. He's up there and he keeps saying an awful thing that Brutus and Gaius has done. You know, and look how they rent noble Caesar's body here. Look at the wound there where Cassius's blade stabbed, and where Brutus's like wound fell. And he's like showing,
Mm-hmm.
but these are noble men. Who can deny that these are noblemen? He keeps going back to that. That's his fucking chorus for the fucking song of deception he's singing. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite things. I don't know Shakespeare, but I know that speech. And I love it. I relish it I play it all the time.
Is it in
Charlton
Rome,
Heston,
the TV show?
so they don't do the speech itself, but what you get, and I actually like this, is they have common folk in a bar describing having heard the speech. They're like, fucking Brutus go up there. And he's all blah, 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 economy, numbers, money, this and that. And Mark Antony got up there. Everybody likes Mark, you know. He's at first, he was saying how what they'd done was good. And then I started thinking maybe it wasn't. And it's like, it's his slow-witted like brain. Like he's explaining how he was duped by the slickest guy in Rome because Shakespeare's writing him to just completely win the crowd over and turn a crowd that was there to be like, yeah, down with the dictatorship, to one that was like, get those motherfuckers that fucked up Caesar. At the very end, the crowd is incensed. They're roiling. They're ready to get somebody and burn a fucking house and get their wives too. And he's like, wait, noble friends, you have forgotten the will of Caesar that you would bid me read. Give me a moment. Let me read what Caesar has left unto you. To each and every man 100 dinar. And everybody's, Caesar's so generous. And he has left unto every Roman man to walk in his orchards and his parks and his gardens of leisure. For all time they are given to the Roman people. Oh, mighty Caesar. Oh, and then it's just, he's got them boiling by the end of it. I love that fucking
That's
scene.
cool.
Charlton Heston's like one of the best.
So to Kyle's point, primarily Egypt, Syria, and Jordan.
Okay.
3 powerhouses.
I mean, again,
I've heard of Egypt. No, I've
heard of Egypt. You know what? I've heard Egypt is in their heyday right now. Like, it certainly wasn't. Dude, that would suck to be born in a country and be like, I mean, we can look back and be like, you know, America's like, we were at our peak, like right after World War II. Nobody could fucking touch us in anything. Like, imagine being Egyptian right now, and it'd be like, oh, you know, don't come at me 7,000 years ago.
You don't even know.
You know, before the Romans with their newfangled technologies bullied us and all that, you know, we were a big deal.
Library of Alexandria.
This is, yeah.
I heard the whole idea of so much knowledge being lost at the Library of Alexandria is nonsense.
It'd be really sad for it to be true. So it's easier. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're always finding that various pieces of geometry and stuff were discovered way before. It was always find interesting that they'll find some cuneiform tablet or something that indicates they had some knowledge of geometry or astronomy too. When you look at the those really old civilizations, and they've got all that stuff built for astronomical or astronomy purposes to like predict the eclipses and stuff. I still don't know how they're doing that. I don't know how you look at the stars and predict when the next eclipse is going to be.
Oh, I have no idea.
I'm completely reliant on smarter people for this task.
But those like proto-Mexicans with their flat pyramids figured it out.
Proto-Mexican. I mean, do you think like the Aztecs would have been embarrassed if like if they saw the Egyptian pyramid at the same time concurrently.
Oh yeah, dude.
you know they were high on their own supply for how
They'd be
cool
like, oh,
their
when the
pyramid
sun
was.
sets, you can see a snake, and like, you cannot see the sun behind my pyramid.
Yes.
My pyramid blocks out the sun. It is made to the sun god Ra.
Were there
They'd be
many
like,
Aztec
like these.
pyramids? I know there was some, probably
I
multiple.
don't
but-
remember if it was Aztec or Inca or Maya or what, but it was like those step pyramids.
Ziggurats?
Yeah, kind of like a ziggurat. Yep, except not nearly as big as like the Giza pyramids.
I always say it. What I said is a thing that like one of the unique things about them. When the wind blows, they make a certain noise. Like when the wind blows past the thing, it makes a noise. There's the other one where you clap and it like reverts the clap back.
The sound will go to the top. In this case, a pyramid. You know? And if it's there a cavity or a temple, like in this case, the echo will come back to you. If you clap in front of an Egyptian pyramid, nothing happens because the sound goes away. But here, the sound comes back. Why it sounds like a bird? Don't ask me that, because we don't know. But this is really impressive.
And then when the sun sets on one of the equinoxes, you see like an animal's shadow like walk up the building or something on one of them. So they did a lot of stuff like that. But I think that pales in comparison when you look at the Giza pyramid, that gigantic
In
pyramid.
fairness, they're both
I don't
really
think-
cool.
You know, like they always say those are burial tombs or whatever. I don't even know what the fuck they are. I don't think they found people in the Great Pyramid. I don't think there was a mummy in there or anything.
Didn't they find Tut in a pyramid?
I don't know where
It
they.
was in a tomb, Taylor.
It was in a tomb underground, I thought, but I don't think that there was a mummy or like a king buried in the Great Pyramid at Giza. I don't think they know what.
Isn't that theorized though that like they were, but I mean thousands of years of bandits and thievery, like everything's been looted out of it.
I don't think there's a tomb chamber though. Like they don't. I don't think so.
Is that just like hokum nonsense where they were like, oh, and the Egyptians, when the pharaoh died, his servants would be thrown in with him, locked in the tomb, so they could serve him in the afterlife.
So that happening, they would do that. They would do that they would like put your dog in there, your pets, like your favorite fucking knife, like your favorite foods. They would set the place up like there was going to be a finger snap and everything in this room was going to be transported to the afterlife
Like
with
that
you.
dead black guy with the Xbox.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Would I be a total asshole if I was like, my favorite thing is my wife. Bury her with me.
yeah, they do that. Honestly, she might
She's
be
still
like,
alive at this point.
she might be volunteering. She might be like, yes, yeah, let's go.
Oh, dude, I'd be like, and bury me with the entire Chicago Blackhawks organization. That would, and then I'd do a little bit for St. Louis and Beyond the Grave.
Hey, Taylor, some of these people are retired. I haven't forgotten.
Patrick Kane being dragged screaming into my catacomb. Just
Did you see that interview where they asked I think he was the GM of the Chicago Blackhawks, just hockey questions?
I didn't see that. No.
Oh, they had no idea who this guy was. And they're like, do you like hockey at all? He's a little bit. And they're like, name your 10 favorite players. And he's like 9 of them were Blackhawks, like going back a bit. And he obviously knew what he was doing. It was pretty cool. I think you'd like it even though you hate the team.
Oh, I would enjoy content like that. I'll have to try
when Genghis Khan died, they did that thing where they killed all the guys who buried him, and then they killed all the guys that killed them.
But how did we get this story?
Because I think someone was like, yeah, I killed the guys that killed the guys that buried him. I don't know shit. And then after he said that, they killed that guy. But the guys who heard it in the other side of the room, they told us. They told me.
Yeah, seems. I don't know about this one.
You always ask those questions, and it's like, because historians say so. Because historians,
But
I always,
he is
I feel like
he's a bit of a flat earther. He doesn't believe it unless he saw it.
it's on. I feel
No,
like
I'm a hollow earther.
You immediately become Mac, being like, "Have you looked at the files? Have you combed through the documents?"
I think it sounds I think it's a real common sense question to ask to tell a story that's like, do you know that Genghis Khan's burial party was murdered by a a secondary group, and then this secondary group was killed by a tertiary group, and then this group themselves were executed to ensure the secrecy was upheld. And it's like, okay, so who talked about it? And who wrote it down? Would they not immediately be like, oh, Mr. Historian, we noticed you wrote some stuff down. Can we take a peek? And he's like, no, not for at least 3,000 years. They were burying it like medical studies. No, you can't look at this until, the year 2000.
Well, they never found it, nonetheless.
Well, is anyone looking?
I mean, probably not. He's somewhere over there in Mongolia, I would imagine, right?
Mongolia is a pretty country. That would be, if I wanted to travel to Asia, Japan would be neat because of how many people there are and all their cool vending machines and technology. And then Mongolia seems almost like untouched.
Taylor,
There's only like 4 million
panties right to you. You don't have to go to Japan find a vending machine.
No, I do.
Okay.
I have to go. It's probably like it's like seafood on the coast. It's just better. Like that's what you get. You get fresh Japanese panties right out of the vending machine, and then afterward you get yourself a Sprite Zero Chill.
Like 28 days later, as scary as the zombies were, when they finally get to the military camp they've been trying to get to this whole time for safety, and it turns out the military camp a bunch of sadistic rapers who want to steal their women and put them in sexual slavery and kill them and put them in a ditch. It's like, dang, the zombies didn't discriminate. like you got stuck.
You're right. The people were bad. I think you could still argue the zombies are the biggest problem in that universe.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm more afraid of a person than I am any kind of zombie, though. Like people are conniving and tricky and just brutal and sadistic. Like at least the zombie eats you and gets it over with. Like people are awful.
People stay problematic, right? Most the zombies, like you said, are dumb enough that you can build up your environment, and then they're just wild animals. I mean, people survive amongst tigers and bears and shit like that all the time. They just build up their environment until they're protected from it. You stay inside the house or what have you. People, it's hard to protect yourself from them. They're clever.
Yeah. Yeah, we dominate the animal kingdom so hard. Like none of them are even like, who's even second place? Like
I feel like
one.
If you really want to dominate the animal kingdom, you have to start breeding them out of existence, right? We need to bang so many donkeys that purebred donkeys aren't there anymore.
We've on accident done that to whole species where we're like, oh, I'm sorry, was there some kind of anteater that used to fuck around here? Not anymore. I needed cheaper paper.
I don't know what you're referring to, but it's still funny.
I don't know, like cutting down the Amazon wherever anteaters live.
There's a really good series on YouTube, and it's like all of the animals that the Romans would have seen that are now extinct, all the animals the Egyptians would have seen that are now extinct. And there's a lot of them. It's kind of sad. There was some sort of pigeon that was super numerous. There was a hunting competition, and the winner
loss.
They killed like 3 billion of them or something. The winner of a hunt would kill 50,000 birds. They just killed them all.
What do you kill them with?
Shotgun.
Wait, when was this?
I don't know. 1900s, early 1900s.
I thought you were talking. You seamlessly went from Rome to this.
Well,
and I'm like, how are they getting so many?
Yeah. I thought it's like rocks.
No, I was saying
lots of spears.
There's a YouTube series for animals that the Romans would have seen that have gone extinct. For the Egyptians and so on and so forth. And just as an example of another animal that used to be around not that long ago that we drove to extinction were these pigeons that we killed off of 120 years ago or something like that.
We need to do what we did to Cro-Magnons and just breed them out of existence. I need some panda people, right? Like find something that makes a baby with people.
I think we came from Cro-Magnons or something like that.
Cro-Magnon, yeah, I think that's a prerequisite to. Not prerequisite, preempted Homo sapiens, right? Or maybe they probably lived side by side for a while, and we were like, get a load of these fucking idiots, and then we figured out like boats and buildings and like
that's
war.
You touched on it. That's what I would want to go back and see that went extinct. The other people, like the other hominids, is what they're called. things that were a lot like us that had their own like little communities of intelligent beings.
Pygmies.
In Indonesia, they had these hobbit people that were like 3.5 feet tall or something that were people. And then obviously the Neanderthals, and there's more. There's several other little groups of people they found that are distinctly not human, but intelligent, 2-leg walking hominids that fucking made clothes and spears and hunted and talked to each other and shit. Maybe not talk to each other.
But they were close enough for us to mate with, like, and create viable offspring.
Not that I know. The Neanderthals, yes. I don't know.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
The Hobbit people they found in a cave in Indonesia, and so like I don't think they know very much about.
I see some shit on Motherless. You can mate with more than you'd guess.
There's still a race of short people living in Indonesia. They're called Indonesians. They're there. Yeah, maybe not 3 feet tall, but they're little fellas, I think.
They are little fellas.
Yeah, you have to be. You're living on there's a lot of islands there. You're too big. Like, you think some giant Swede is going to thrive there? No, it takes too many calories.
There's that one group of people who live on the coast or something. They have extra large pancreases or something like that. They can hold their breath for really long because of some genetic difference they have. That's
like more robust lungs or something.
Yeah, we should all have that. I think they can like scrub CO2 from their blood more efficiently than we can or something.
The Nepalese have something like that with like oxygen saturation, don't they? Like they can just survive way better than other people at those ridiculous altitudes.
You would imagine so. I know that I read that one guy who's a Sherpa has done Mount Everest twice this month already, and it's like his 6th or 8th time this year.
Yeah, he's at work. Like
again, not impressive. It's not impressive. Not impressive. You tell me climb Mount Everest. Oh, cool. I run a 5K. A 5K. Yeah. yeah.
It really isn't.
So we're like,
you got to commit. You got to commit. You got to train. You got to really focus. Mount Everest, not expensive, though. Yeah. Not for me.
No, not for me either. I don't. It's more of I can't be bothered.
Not impressed.
Okay. What like feats like that would
swim the English Channel? I'd be blown the fuck away.
Go find the Titanic in a homemade submarine.
You swim the English Channel. Or you swim Cuba to Miami. You do one of those crazy swims like that.
I think that's 90 miles, right?
It's 90 miles. A lady did it.
No, that was the English Channel, and she was a big fat woman, right? That's a different story.
It's probably a different story. I don't know about the fat lady who swam the English Channel, which, guessing off the top of my head, is 30 miles, right?
I have 22 in my head, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm literally guessing just based on maps. So I have no number I've ever read or remember.
21 in its narrowest.
Nailed it.
Okay.
But I bet you've got to start swimming way at an angle from where you want to be, right? Because you're being over the course of swimming 20 miles, like the current's got to pull you dozens of miles.
You got to swim diagonally or start on like.
I think
that's what I'm saying.
Swim straight, but allow just your path will be diagonal. That's how I once did really well in a swimming competition.
Than what I said.
Just following that exact. For the lifeguard tryouts, it wasn't an interview; it was an athletic competition, and there were 70 people doing this like mile swim. You swim half mile straight out and then back, and you can see the buoy. And like 68 people lined up right in front of it, but I could see the current. And I was a surfer, so I read currents like every day. And I know I'm right, but 68 people disagree with me. And I'm like, but I know I'm right. I can see it with my own eyes. So I walked 2 blocks over all by myself. And I had a friend who was also competing. And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I can see it. The current's going this way. All these people are going to be swimming against the current. And, except me. I'm going to swim straight out and let it carry me to the buoy. And that's what I did. And I did well. I was just a kid, and everyone else was like collegiate swimmers and shit. I was out of high school, and I got a 4th. So
nice.
Better than I expected.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, something like that would impress me. That Mount Everest thing, I think, is a rich guy hike. And I know people die, but they don't die because it was so hard they couldn't continue. They die because a storm came in and killed them. Like that doesn't make it hard. That makes it dangerous. I just don't think it's hard.
It still seems pretty. It's not easy.
I think it's easy. I think it's easy on the like grand scheme of like climbing K2, I would be so much more impressed.
Well, I don't want to spend too much time on Everest again, because I explicitly remember not that long ago sitting here talking about it and like pulling up the Wikipedia to talk about how people died from, and like many of them were in like early retirement age.
Yeah. It's nonsense. I could easily climb Mount Everest.
I could easily beat Brock Lesnar.
I wouldn't even brag about it. I wouldn't tell people.
There's a non-zero chance Kyle's already climbed Everest and he's not telling us.
Hey, I'm just saying I might have went up last week. You don't know. You don't know. This is a green screen. I'm in Nepal right now.
Great internet.
I'm at base camp right now.
He's tethering
green
to
screen
his
away, and I was there like pulled up. Oh, there we go. Oh.
Next show, you should have a tent in your green screen background.
Wear my parka. I like put some makeup on, so my nose is like blue and black from frostbite.
Do you have any other info?
What's wrong?
About like
so wrong
about like non-pigeon animals, like a good animal.
The oryx
that the Romans had.
Oh, like
or the Egyptians, either one.
There was some. There were smaller elephants with bigger ears. There was something called an oryx, which was like a buffalo bison type thing. None of them were like, there was the maned, there's some sort of a maned wolf. And then the one in Australia, there's that old video of, that might be the main.
Oh, the Tasmanian devil?
That still lives. There's plenty of those, I think. I don't think those died out.
I thought, because you know that old picture, it's like from the 1896 World Fair.
He's spinning around real fast, getting all rowdy.
Yeah. So they show the old Tasmanian devil, and it has like stripes on the back. Tasmanian tiger, that's what it is. Yeah.
That's the last. They had the last living one, and they're like, here it is, the last living Tasmanian tiger, and over there, a boy from Nigeria.
It loves when you throw coins at it.
I saw that graphic today, and it was countries who at one time or another.
And in the next exhibit, we have an African child. Like
exactly, yeah. That's what
he also loves it when you throw coins at him.
Yes, they all love coins.
It was a graph of all the countries who have had people zoos or people in their zoos, and it's us, the English.
Wait, we
Indian.
had people in zoos?
Oh yeah, we had people.
Anyone that came up with zoos before they figured out that was pretty gauche, like they were throwing people in there. They'd be like, up this next exhibit from darkest Africa. Again,
they would
don't
have
throw peanuts, throw coins.
They would have black.
What would they do?
They just would put them in a cage.
Same
and be
thing
like,
that animals do. They just chill.
Like read books and stuff.
They can't fucking read.
They didn't know to read.
They didn't go get some scholar from Nigeria. They got some boy with a bone through his nose and threw him in a cage.
Unhand me. What is the charge?
Madam, democracy
must enjoy a sunny day on the Kenyan fields. Yeah, no, they didn't know how to fucking read. They just were like,
Zach, find us a picture of one of them kids in a zoo. That little fellow.
Some British guy literally probably showed up and was like, "Hey, this shiny new gun, all yours, as long as you let me fill up this cage and I get to have an exhibit." And they're like, "All right, dealio."
Yeah, I think
take them to the zoo.
Buy, you could just go scoop up a few of those little fellows and nobody really know.
Probably not.
Well, I don't.
No, I'm glad he brought up the little elephants.
No,
I really like this.
Well, I don't know what this is. Find me. Don't show me. There. Well, there you go. Now that's what I wanted.
Huh.
That is what I wanted.
Wait, is this? It looks like people are just swimming here. There's black. I think that's African people live. Just like, oh, so this isn't a zoo. This is just the old.
Actually, one black guy on the edge, and I bet he's like ready to get out of there before he joins the exhibit.
There's two. I see two.
You see this guy in the bowler cap? My God, who taught those black men to swim?
My first day of high school, I was in the locker room, and they were taking all the smallest freshmen and jamming them into lockers. And the way these lockers worked is if you could get the doors shut, then you couldn't open it from the inside. And I'm watching these poor kids. I don't know them because we combined a couple schools to make my high school.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know these strangers. I just know that small people are getting stuffed into lockers. And I was like backing away as a fellow smallie, trying not to get noticed. And some guy was like, look at Woody and Jimmy walking backwards away from the commotion, hoping they don't go in lockers. It's like, look at you calling me out for it.
You're just like, ha.
Anyway, I think it was the same vibe as that African guy watching his other Africans in the pool at the exhibit. Like, I should back away.
Nah,
I
this
don't
is
want
the
to go
shit
in
right here.
too.
So this is
Wow.
the sad story of an African boy who was showcased in a zoo cage in 1904. Ota Bingo was kidnapped from the Congo and taken to America and exhibited at the Bronx Zoo in the Monkey House. He suffered inhumane treatment and ended up committing suicide 12 years later.
I believe that entire story, but what is going on with his head in that left image? Like, does that look shopped?
The man has a tall head. Look in the right image. They probably from some sort of society that wraps their heads in fucking rubber bands until they get all long and weird.
On the right?
That is
That must be the same guy.
Him. That's
Ota
the same
Bingo.
man.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
the same person. Oh,
Yeah. He spent his whole life in the zoo.
Yeah. Woody, this is from Dr. Penking on Twitter. And it was posted at 1:28 a.m., which is prime fact hours.
He's a writer, a novelist, and a medical doctor, Taylor. What problem, what issue do you take with doctor? He's an MBBS and an MPHI, whatever.
That's nothing compared to my Twitter bio.
DM for ads
a
and
master's in bullshit.
Noted historian on race relations. Jesus, Taylor, trying to take Dr. Pinking down a notch.
Yeah, have some respect for Otto Buntunk.
Yeah, we should.
And I'm glad I didn't have to live in a zoo. That would have sucked.
I wouldn't want to live in a zoo either. And if I did, I'd hope it was a way nicer zoo than that.
Yeah, it was more of a. Yeah, it was a little bit of a zoo, I guess. It smelled nice in there. It was so clean that the zoo that kid was in looked filthy.
Now that you say that, I remember you were telling me that the other inmates kind of self-policed and kept it tidy.
It's the cleanest place you'll ever go to is a prison. I'll tell you what I really don't like is the upside down American flag thing. I don't like them doing anything to I don't like when people wear the American flag. I don't like when you turn it upside down. I don't like when you put that fascist blue stripe through the middle. Leave it alone. Is it Susan B. Anthony? She got it right the first fucking time. All right, I mean, we add more stars as time goes on, obviously, but that's just that's like in the UFC when you get another fucking ruby on your belt every time you defend your title.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. I think
what's the Betsy Ross flag look like? Is that the with just 13 stars?
I don't know.
Have you guys Betsy Ross? What does Susan B. Anthony do?
I don't know, but
I think she made
know
the one
she's
that
another history lady.
The Republicans adopted the Betsy Ross flag for some period of time, and
there's the one that's like the American flag, but where the stars are, there's like a big white swastika. That's a pretty fire one, you know. That's some new lore.
that was huge for one decade, a century ago.
Yeah, they say America.
It's like Susan B. Anthony. Yeah, it's just Betsy Ross. Susan B. Anthony was just like she was a suffragette. She was.
Ooh, I do not like her.
Yeah, taking that. By the way, if you look at a picture of her, you'll see fucking wine. My God.
Okay, well, I'm team fucking. What was her name? Betsy Ross.
Betsy Ross. Yeah.
She's the
Is she the one that made the flag? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what she did after making that beautiful flag?
She shut the fuck up like a good wife.
It to herself. Do you like my flag I made, sweetheart? It's fine. Dinner's not ready yet. And then this bitch shows up a century and a half later and goes,
"That's Susan B. Anthony."
Susan, that's a girl.
We put that lady on a coin.
No,
she has
I would never
a good jawline.
That's a masculine woman, dude. Like if you look at her from like get rid of the eyes and put a man's haircut on her, and like that's just a dude.
Yeah,
she's been mewing a lot. Jesus Christ,
dude.
Her haircut
Zach,
now.
Slow down. I can only get so erect.
She kind of got that hair of the berries and cream.
She's big into jazzercise. Oh my God! Look at that fucking jaw.
Wow.
Look at that. Built like a linebacker, this bitch.
Dude, if she'd be UFC champion if she existed today.
Yeah.
I want
to vote. Where? No, get over it.
Zach, see if this lady might have been a man. If there's any theories about that, or if did she ever bear children? You know, was she married to a gentleman? Like, or was she like single her
There
whole
is
life
no
or something?
way she was married. Let's see. Wait, why the fuck is this?
It looks
National
like a man.
Women's History Museum.
I saw that this conservative lady, I suppose,
Lots of
made
inventions in there.
It's the same style of invention list as the George Washington Carver one we looked at last week. Oh, we found last week, Tom. We found like a straight up George Washington Carver conspiracy website. Like there's like the Tuskegee Project. It had like a .edu, and it was like the inventions of George Washington Carver. There was shit like soap,
vinegar. Like he invented.
Is this the peanut butter guy?
That's the thing. That's what you thought, isn't it? That's what they told us. That's what they lied to us about. I don't know what George Washington Carver invented. I genuinely don't anymore. They gave him credit for the salted peanut, dude. Okay, fuck you. Fuck you. What if I put pepper on him? Do I get my name on a goddamn website with an edu tag? Get the fuck out of here. He did not invent. The one thing he didn't come up with: peanut butter. Peanut butter. He never figured that one out. He was using like peanut husks to make insulation and shit, calling himself Edison.
He made the first car powered by peanuts.
Like the stuff. I just pulled the website up again. Thank God the link was still purple. Yeah, they said he invented buttermilk, mock meat, peanut sprouts,
mock meat.
Mayonnaise,
not mock meat in 1800, whatever.
Dry coffee. He invented dry coffee. For centuries, people in other countries had been making coffee and they never thought to dry it.
They just boiled huge batches of it and carried the vases of liquid coffee around.
One of the things on this list is breakfast food number 5. We all know breakfast food number 5. We all know and love.
My world.
So much better than 4.
But I'm more of a breakfast food number 3 guy, which is also on the list.
This on the IHOP menu? Like, what the fuck is this?
This is on Tuskegee.edu. George.
What is breakfast food number 5? Like,
that's on his. Here's.
I choose to believe it's like Rocky, where number 2 was the best.
Here's the link. It says in the list foods he invented: instant coffee.
Could you pull it up for a sec, please?
Caramel. He invented caramel. This guy was
he
busy.
didn't.
He did not. He did not invent cheese pimento. Substitute asparagus.
You like pimento cheese? I love it.
I'm good on pimento cheese. Yeah, or that makes it sound like I don't like it. I'm fine with it. It's not like
if you ever go to the grocery store. So what you want is there's this brand at the grocery store that has jalapenos in it, and it on the like pimento cheese package, the little plastic jar or whatever. There's a picture of an old timey black lady on it, like an Aunt Jemima type, and it's not like a cartoon of her. It's like a bad quality Polaroid of just a black woman's face, and that shit is delicious.
What the fuck is cheese nut sage? What is cheese nut sage?
Dude, there's one schizophrenic guy who maintains and updates this website, guaranteed. Like one lover of George Washington Carver who can't accept, hey, I bet he was a real nice guy.
He invented breakfast foods 1 through 5.
That's true. Don't forget peanut cake 1 and 2.
It says here under general, he invented sizing for walls. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah. Do you ever notice how every ancient building, all the walls are out of fucking whack?
He invented milk.
They're all different sizes. He invented 32 kinds of milk. Woody, don't cut him short.
My bad.
He made oil for hair and scalp.
Yeah.
What the fuck does this mean? Italians definitely made that.
Yeah, the Italians created it. The Italians are like a farm of scalp oil.
Of oil for the scalp.
He created laxatives. That's a proud one they're putting here under medicine. That's fine.
Bar candy. No one else put
substitute asparagus for when you can't get the good stuff.
Sweeping compound.
Peanut relish. Why would you be proud of
he's looking for a way to make cum taste better?
Peanut beverage beverage for ice cream.
Asparagus needs work.
Plum punch. Tannic acid. Man, medicine similar to castor oil. Couldn't quite beat the castor oil guy.
He created chocolate coated peanuts. He was the first guy ever to put chocolate on a peanut.
Vanishing cream. And I bet the guy who put this here imagined it to be true vanishing cream. Man, here I was thinking that like the ancient Egyptians and Romans used soap. And
that's ridiculous. They were black too, is the thing you don't know.
That's what they try and keep you down. That's what Big White tries to take credit for.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, we spent a while on this guy last week, but it still fascinates me to no end that there is someone out there with an edu domain just making the kind of list that I would if I had a George Washington Carver edu domain. Yeah, just making things up.
That's the list you would make if George Washington Carver was your uncle and you wanted to like big him up on the internet and not let everybody find out that he didn't invent peanut butter. Like we all believe. That's a good trivia question. That should be that. Like if you had like who invented peanut butter, you put his name in the list, but you also throw in who did invent peanut butter, whoever actually did it.
It's almost you can't even take credit for inventing something that simple, can you?
This is a college website. This is
this is not like you said edu domain, and I looked into it. They like their endowment is 157 million.
This is for the same college that Lionel Richie graduated from.
Lionel Richie, noted George Washington Carver historian. What the fuck? This is a ridiculous university. There's no way anyone is learning useful things from this university.
It's a 142-year-old university.
We're learning a lot about peanuts.
Was it founded by George Washington Carver? Is that part of it?
I don't know.
Athletics. Hold on. Where's
it's D3?
Why choose TU? Here at TU, we love breakfast food number 2. And chili sauce and peanut hearts.
John Harvey Kellogg invented peanut butter of Kellogg's cereal. He patented the process for creating peanut butter from raw peanuts. There's a different guy who came up with something called peanut paste, but that's just like pressing peanuts between 2 hot plates. And he was also a black man. 1884, he did that.
This is apparently a pretty good school.
Canadian.
There's no way this is a good school. Do they have pages for like other inventors with just made up nonsense?
I hate that he gets credit for peanut butter and he didn't do it.
Why is that? Why is this page here? Oh, is there a whole George Washington Carver section?
I wonder if there's a museum for him you could visit.
I'm on their rankings on their site. It says they're number 1 in best colleges, historically black colleges and universities, according to the U.S. News and World Report. So I think this is a predominantly white school, from what I can tell.
Yeah, seems that way. A lot of peanut scientists going here.
They're apparently number 31 on the best value schools, regional universities, South by U.S. News and World Report.
I hate it when they divide it into like 16 categories.
Yeah. The 7th best predominantly black school that George Washington Carver graduated from.
They're the 15th
in Atlanta
best college in Alabama, according to College Consensus. So they're up there.
Yeah, I call into question some of the facts on this page. But regardless,
I'm okay with tearing this guy down. I just don't want you to go back to. You already tore down Helen Keller. Who was the other person you were trying to steal valor from the other day? Not steal valor, but just take it away.
Einstein?
No. Why would you?
Einstein wasn't a real person.
I was trying to think of the other conspiracies I did back in the day.
I think it was also. It was Coco. Coco the gorilla.
Oh, we've been through this up and down 6 Question Sunday. That gorilla was not talking. That gorilla learned input orders the same way you can teach a dog that kind of shit. Like it didn't learn to communicate. It learned that if it does these signs,
have you seen dogs hit those
plum
buttons?
Shows up in my palm.
Have you seen those dogs hit those buttons and communicate stuff?
Yeah, but they're not communicating. They're learning. They don't understand the grammar and syntax of what they're expressing. They understand that this and this and this means that a treat comes to me. These sounds just came out of my owner's mouth, which means that this one, this one, this one, and this one is what I need to do in order to achieve the treat. They're not like, oh, wait, he just posed a conditional hypothetical at me. I need to hit this one.
I think they know I think those border collies have 100-word plus IQs. I mean, I'm not IQs, but vocabularies. They know what those words mean. Like they can. They describe.
I think they can remember what the sound is in like tandem with another thing happening.
Yeah,
but I don't think they actually.
But isn't that what vocabulary is? No. Really?
They don't understand the meaning of it. They understand what they're supposed to do when that sound comes out.
That's people too, though. Like blue is blue. I don't need to know anything about the color spectrum.
But if you use a series of words in a sentence to inquire about something to do with my life, I understand and can take many avenues to respond to that because I internalize and understand the root of the question and what you're asking. If you do that at a dog, I
feel like I've seen them do complex things, like not regularly, but I don't know. I watched some Animal Planet thing about the world's smartest dog. He knows 400 words, and they like go talk to this border collie that's in there fucking typing out sentences on the floor.
The one guy who's on screen is like, yeah, I'm the I'm the dog vocabulary expert. Oh, what do I do? What do I not do?
I'm a producer.
I'm a producer. I produce lies and nonsense to sell to the Animal Planet station.
I also have this part of me that just wants to believe that animals that we're all just kind of the same. Like we're all sentient to some level, and we're just more sentient than they are, and we're able to put sentences together. Like, I think that whales should have some sort of personhood, and dolphins, I feel like they should be protected.
I'm fine with that.
Like, I don't think of them like I get we're all animals, but when you say animal, you mean a different thing. You know, I feel like they've almost transcended the animal thing and getting close to the people thing to some extent.
I think you're right. Whales are fine. We can kind of play dolphins by ear. Let's start with whales.
I saw a dolphin try to rape a lady yesterday. Do you see that video on Reddit? It's like no, she's like the ladies. They're like scuba diving, and the dolphin's trying to get its nose in her snoot.
That sounds like a guy I know. He should have rights.
And it's dicks out the whole time. It's dicks out the whole time. He's after her, like trying to get that bottle nose up her snoot.
That's why you can't hug around the ocean too much. That's their domain, man. They can just drown you if they feel like it. They can just grab you with their prehensile penis and pull you to the depths.
I don't think they grab you with it.
They can, though. It's prehensile.
I can break its grip. I don't think they can coil it around your limb like
okay.
A squid,
it's either prehensile or it has an actual bone in it. But it's one of those is correct. We've gone through. I seen it.
Remember when Hank Hill got humped?
There's not really a bone in it. It just feels
that's
that way.
True. Hank Hill had that harrowing experience at La Grunta, the La Grunta vacation spot.
I think the dolphin got like red cheeks, like its cheeks were flush, like they were using that to signify a hard on.
Yeah,
because they didn't want
his belly was getting red when he was getting.
That's what it was. Well, in the video I saw, his belly got more than red. His dick came out, and it was he had a fucking baby's arm down there flopping around underwater.
I bet they're big animals, right? How much does the dolphin weigh?
I would guess big dolphin, 500, 600, 700 pounds. 500 pounds? 500 pounds would be my guess. Okay. Big dolphin.
That would be similar to what I'd guess too. They're only next to other dolphins, and so unless you have like a good foreknowledge of dolphin weight,
but you can't really see them very well, and water compresses.
Oh my god! An adult dolphin can weight that can't be accurate.
That's not true, Zach. You've fallen for a big dolphin.
Zach said between 2,000 and 6,000 pounds, roughly.
How really? Dolphins are so much bigger than I thought.
I'm not confirming it. I'm telling people.
How 6,000 pounds is just insanity mode.
All right, that's Zach. I think
I don't believe that.
The Maui dolphin's only 110 pounds. And then I guess the orca counts as a.
Oh, don't count the orca.
I'm reading an article.
Whale.
I'm learning.
No, I see what happened. The top link has it in like the Google preview, but you can't tell it's talking about an orca.
Bottlenose dolphin. That's what we want. We want Flipper. Remember Flipper? You ever see that show?
I have the answer. 3:30 to cut off my screen. Sorry.
Wait, this is an AI overview. Aren't these notoriously wrong?
330 to 1,400 pounds, according to Wikipedia.
For a bottlenose dolphin.
Bottlenose dolphins can range in size from 6 to 13 feet long and weigh 300 to 1,400 pounds.
That's way bigger than I thought they were. That thing could kill you easily.
Wait, 300 pounds to 1,400 pounds in that range?
That's a huge range.
Huge range.
Yeah, there's like a lot of shapes and sizes of these things. They are human in that way. Jesus.
Maybe 1,400 pound dolphins have a weight problem. Right, in the same way that humans get, like human males weigh between 150 and 700 pounds. So the 700-pounders are not normal human men.
Man, that's crazy that we're the only animal that just dominates nature so hard that we have problems with being overweight. Like, there's no troop of chimps out there who's just killing it so hard in their locale and wherever in Africa they are, their little tribe area. And they're just all fat. None of them. We're the only ones who just kick ass.
I'm trying to come up with an animal that proves Taylor wrong. Like bear?
Even bears, they get fat off of our labor. Unless they're finding all those honey buns and all that shit in the trash, all those calorie-dense, sugary things. Like,
I was going to say they get fat in preparation for hibernation.
Sure.
Like the way that they rock.
Okay, that's all right. Other than bears, there isn't a single animal I can think of that has weight problems.
Dogs,
right?
but that ties back to
and
your
that's-
later.
yeah,
That's just us
Dogs
again.
that we feed,
That's us. Wild
Every
dogs.
dog I've ever had.
Wild dogs are skinny. They all look like they are a dinner miss away from death,
Mhm.
and they probably
There also
are.
aren't any other animals that have figured out how to do fentanyl, as far as I know. So I think
We're
we're pretty addicted to making our lives a lot worse.
We actively
Dramatically.
make our lives harder for ourselves.
Like
There
I
you
always get pissed off when movies make it seem like the native. It used to be that Native Americans and Indians in movies were like fodder and for cowboys to shoot, and just 100%. These guys are awful. These guys are the bad guys. And then like recently, it's been like, no, they were the good guys all along, living in this symbiotic relationship with nature. They were just worshiping the world and the earth, and Gaia was their spirit animal, and they've been cannibalizing, raping, and enslaving each other for as long as their history went back. It was how they rolled. Like Comanche means, I'm pretty sure this might be one of those Joe Rogan facts. I'm pretty sure Comanche means enemy. Like I think it means enemy. It doesn't mean like I think a lot of the Native American names mean like, you know, if it's in their language and not like Blackfeet or something. It means something about it, like, oh, the forest people or the ridge folk, but their name means enemy because they were awful. They had ritualized torture. They thought the longer they made you fucking like scream in agony, the better the magic would be. Like they were awful people. When they brought white slaves back to the settlement to turn in and do a trade, the white people were so incensed at the treatment that the slaves had received. The girls had their noses burnt off. Their feet were the bottoms of their feet. They would burn them every night so they couldn't run away. They were just so disfigured and mangled that they were like, you know what? Let's kill them. Let's just kill them all, right? Like the white people just killed them all when they saw what they'd done to the prisoners. Of course, then the Indians killed all the rest of the prisoners up. And did all
According to the Oklahoma Historical Society, Comanche means enemy or stranger.
Yeah.
There you go. Look at you, Mr.
They're
Rogan.
awful people. And the Apache are just a fucking out branch of them, and there's more of them. And all the Indians were like that. I think some of the bitch-made tribes, like the Cherokee, like the Eastern tribes, they seemed like they had things. Were
they bitch-made?
Yeah. They like capitulated right away. Like they were right away. They were putting on like suits and shit and accepting those big medals.
Dude, if you like were stoked on your morning because you just caught a rabbit and you did a pretty good job erecting your teepee, and then you see the largest things you've ever seen sailing towards you, a possibility that you didn't know existed as a mode of transport. Like they're going to show up and you're going to be like, all right, let's not be fucking dumb here. What do you guys want? You're offering beads? I don't even know if they're bad traders or if they were just scared. Yes, we will take your beads. Guys, this might be the best chance we have. Like, this is probably more what it was. Like, you're going to, it's like, what are those things sticking out of the side of your large craft? It's like, those are cannons. You're thousands of turns away from that in Civ. What's that? Your favorite stick? Like
it took hundreds of years to get them all.
Oh wow, that you mush that berry up and you can make cloth purple. That's so wild. Do you notice what I'm wearing? Notice all the other colors? Yeah, bitch, we figured that out. I got pantaloons on.
How long it takes them to train their soldiers too? It's like, oh yeah, it takes a process of 7 years for you to become a man and know how to shoot a bow and arrow off the side of a horse. It's like we just gave Jerry a fucking gun and like told him how to use it for like 10 minutes. Now he's pretty fucking scary.
It's like, well, we've got a boat full of Irish alcoholics with guns. Good luck. They're undefeated so far.
Irish alcoholics just innately know how to use them.
Yeah,
we started with 30 of them. We're down to 25.
As soon as they landed, they started to work on corn vodka, and then immediately they conquered. That's all that they did. But yeah, it was a big. There's been a big uptick in the noble savage stuff. I've noticed that too.
It was like 1839 before we started fucking actually winning. Like it was like 50-50 forever. When the Texas Rangers got those revolvers, when they got, I don't know if there were 5 shooters or 6 shooters, but they had interchangeable cartridges so they could pop in another cylinder. And then they had their rifle too. That changed everything because you could carry 2 fucking guns and switch, but you wouldn't 2-gun it. You'd switch back and forth.
Did they have lever action? Rifles?
Not yet.
That was later.
Not yet.
They had these
Civil War, roughly.
They would have probably carried like a buffalo gun, like a 50 caliber, like 1 shooter that would, they could shoot.
Yeah, I was gonna
really pretty far.
Yeah, it was a little eye opening for me when I first learned about like I thought bow and arrow versus rifle. Rifle's clearly much better, right? Depends on the scenario, you know. Because if it's a single shot rifle versus how easy it is to reload an arrow,
depends where we're fighting. That's what matters the most. A lot of the great ranger stories involves like one ranger who was able to get up into an entrenched area up on a cliff face or something, and then they've got to kind of approach him in a weird way, and he's able to pick people off. But the way that they would fight on the open plain, they would have a couple dozen guys on horses riding in a circle. Like they create a tornado of warriors riding in a circle. And when the warrior gets to your side of this tornado, he shoots at you with his bow. And then he's shooting you from the backside of his horse. He's hanging off the fucking horse sideways. So he's covered up, except for he's head glitching on a horse that's moving. And you're a cowboy on foot that you've made your horse lay down, and you're like popping at this guy with a revolver or a rifle, and he's way over there, but he's circling, and the arrows keep coming because by the time they get around, the circle makes a revolution. He's reloaded even if he's slow, so the arrows are just, and it's a moving target constantly.
My skeet shooting experience kicks in. Like, sir, can I have you come straight away or towards me? It's so much easier.
I was gonna say, what's Comanche for? Check out this rad pixel peak.
It's fucking terrifying. And then the worst part was, you might not want to fight. You might be like a settler or a pilgrim or some shit, or a family man. You don't want to be there. They want to be there so bad. It's all they want. It's their favorite fucking thing. It's their sport. They want to beat you to death and cut the top of your head off. That's the worst part. You definitely want to die there.
Loved that.
Loved it so much, but we loved it too. Like the problem was I think Mexico, I know, would pay bounties for scalps, but how do you determine whose scalp that was?
That's
Child
like
scalp, a woman's scalp.
You don't think it was a rigorous process?
I know it wasn't.
That's like the entire plot of Blood Meridian.
Yeah, Blood Meridian is the book that they failed to make into a movie time and time again because the subject matter and the character is so extremely gory, controversial, dark, glooming, and horrific. Like it's full of rape and murder and
I should watch
hatred.
It.
There's no movie. They
couldn't make it. Like I wish they would, but I mean, the subject. You're right. The subject matter is like it's rapey, it's gory, it's like
the final scene is rape.
Overtones are racist, and like it's you could never. You might pull it off in 1980 when the 1970s before the before the CGI was that good, but nowadays, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Child murder, pedophilia, like all the awful things.
Runs the gamut.
Rough. Yeah. The movie ends with a rape.
That's a terrible way to end a movie.
And murder.
Unless it was like a really bad guy.
No.
And even then, that wouldn't make me feel like justice was served. I'd be like, oh, my hero's a rapist.
No, but yeah, that's what. Oh, your hero is a rapist. The main character, the judge, is like he's the guy who he rapes.
He rapes, but he saves.
I think he's the literal stand-in for Satan.
The actual stand-in for Satan,
or just like evil incarnate, or like the evil of man. Maybe like the worst parts of humanity. Like he's just as bad as it gets. Yeah, it's a very good book.
What would be? I mean, you made a good point about the engines, being sneaky.
Fuck them. They got what they had coming. I don't like that they get those casinos. I think I really don't. I don't like they get those. We should give those to like
the other Indians.
The other Indians. They run that. They take care of the things. All right. It'd be a little dirtier in there.
My name is Cheap Shitting Street, and I really didn't rob you of your money.
We really didn't do it on purpose, but last episode was obviously 7-Eleven, and we spent an hour shitting on how filthy India and Indians are.
No pun intended.
That works perfectly. Yeah,
I thought about it after the show.
Damn it! Like, how do we all miss that?
That's right. I don't know. I thought about it after the show. I was, we missed that joke. Yeah, we don't. But yeah, Native Americans, I've always thought just like, what are you doing? Whenever I see them treated as like the good guy in the movie or something, or when tribal life is sort of shown as just this peaceful coexisting with nature sort of thing, like Fern Gullying it, like making them the Na'vi from Avatar, this just like perfect group of like in sync with nature and harmonious living, and then white man comes to colonize. And he wants to burn coal and dig for his shiny ore and rape our women and enslave us. It's like, no, you are a slave trader. Like that's what your chief does for a living. He's like, horses and slaves, what do you want? Like that's what you do for a living, is trade horses and slaves.
Don't get me wrong, like no side was like perfect in that, but people forget that like before the white man showed up, you know, they were like, oh, when the white man came, like they were all like all the Indians got brutalized. It's like they were doing that to each other long before we showed up.
For sure.
Yeah. Like white people and Europeans were just way better at war. Like when you're 100 techs ahead, like you're not going to lose. It's as simple as that. Like
we lost so bad for so long. like Mexico in particular was giving all this free land away, which is now Texas, and inviting all these, come look, and they'd be like a poster. It's kind of like that Kevin Costner movie Horizon. Like, look how beautiful it is out here, free land. And then they'd have all these people living on their territory that were white people that they thought of as like a human buffer zone against the Native Americans. So if they got killed, they weren't defended by the Mexican army or the Mexican government. They had to count on what came to be the Texas Rangers and stuff like that. That's kind of why the war got fought, I think, eventually, and Texas became Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, oof. I mean, if I were American Indian, I would also want to do a little revisionist history, because it'd be like, fuck, we got beat that bad for that long, like totally conquered. Like, nah, I would appreciate movies that were like, oh, we were like awesome before they showed up. They just got the jump on us.
Now, what I will say, what is
like
super
totally
shitty,
ridiculous.
What is super shitty is like we would make deals with them and we'd sign that shit, and then we'd find out that like, oh, we need that river, or we need that mountain, or there's gold there. You gave the gold mountain to the Indians? Well, move them over there. And we just kind of go back on our word time and time again. That's pretty shitty. That's a lie. We don't like liars.
The government going back on their word?
Yeah, that's not ideal. Usually the government's so good about that. They're like, no, we're not raising taxes. No, we're not doing these things you hate actively. So I guess it's always been the same.
I've been thinking about that movie you say they can't make. And I don't know, it just got in my head as you're like talking about all the reasons it's so bad, and the PKA response to it is this song parody. Rapey and gory and child abuse, evil and murder, savages gone loose, brown hairy scalps tied up with strings. These are a few of our favorite things.
Do you think they would like that?
Yeah.
Was that Chat GPT, or did you just do that?
Did you Chat GPT that?
That's our Christmas album
now.
Just sitting there writing, being like, no, that's not racist enough.
Think,
damn it, hit it harder.
Jesus Christ.
Came out well.
Yeah. Who would you want if we have to conquer a new group right now? Can't say no.
Sentinel Island.
Are we talking about a territory or a group of people?
Like I guess a group of land territory. That's a better word. Yeah.
I would prefer to subjugate a group of people, but if you put me to it, I guess.
Oh, well, I was just thinking like a territory is like a more useful thing to think about. Like,
see, the problem with that is like you got to get rid of the people, or it's not worth anything. Like the problem with Puerto Rico is all the Puerto Ricans.
Yeah,
right?
but if you're like I'm not saying like if we wanted to steal Canada,
Israel.
Like if we wanted to steal Canada, like you would take the territory of Canada. You wouldn't be like, all right, we're gonna round up all these French Canadians and throw them in a fucking camp or something.
I think you could Genghis Khan it and make it better than it was before you got there, right? Like he would come in, remove the little monarchies, put in a meritocracy, and that's how he retained control over a broad swath.
Prima nocta.
Yeah,
prima nocta right away.
It was better for them after Genghis Khan left, so I'm told.
So I'm gonna have Taylor go in, fuck all their wives. Anybody gets married, Taylor gets to deflower their brides.
Tight.
Yep. Got you back anytime.
Thanks, man.
He's gonna be up there banging all them French Canadian broads. And I think we want to go work diagonally here. I want to take that like north eastern part of Canada with all the coastline and shit. That seems valuable. Probably some good fishery to be had. Fisheries.
Definitely some fishes.
And I also want to go down there to the Baja or whatever it's called, Woody, that you like so much, that little peninsula.
That's my thought.
All the way down. Zach, would you pull up James Polk's intended final map for the United States of America? Frankly, I'm a Polk man.
I'm a
I've said
big
before,
polk guy. I've seen this map, and it shows us what could have been.
What could have been indeed. What could have been. We
Mhm.
take the whole Gulf of Mexico. I believe the Cuba.
Woody.
What's that? Oh yeah, I know it.
Tijuana.
Yeah. I wonder how different America would be if we had that much Mexico.
Yeah, like would we make that part of Mexico better, or would
Oh
like
hell
they,
yeah!
would they
Have
make
you
us
been to
worse?
Texas? We'd make it Texas. No,
That's
this
not what
isn't
I'm
it.
looking
No, that's
for,
not
no.
it.
Yeah.
Let me find the.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, some of that Mexican
So
land
blurry.
doesn't seem that great. It's like 8,000 feet altitude and low rain, and that's not it.
No.
Sent it.
Well, that's a little bit of Zach's. Taylor's got everything.
Yeah, I sent it.
That sort of describes. I thought in his
How does
map
that-
he takes that whole peninsula below San Diego.
There we
Yeah,
go.
that's my
what he
shit.
had in mind.
Now that's a fucking empire, boys. That's what I want to do. Honestly, like what I always think about, frankly, is pushing Mexico back. I don't like, immigration's a bit of an issue, I feel. So we should just push it back. We should just push the wall back to a more manageable area. They always talk about, oh, the wall would have to be this long. Well,
Not if we
further
push it
south we
down
go,
a little
Yeah.
bit.
further
That
south
wall's
we
not
go,
so long.
the
from what
shorter
I'm
the
looking
wall
at.
gets. Yeah, it looks like a short wall right there. And you can put some howitzers on the other side and
Yeah,
some
Mhm.
mines. I think
we get fucking Cuba. Think about the vacation possibilities.
look at that other chunk of what I assume is Mexico that over in the Gulf of Mexico that we're just taking as well. Fuck
It
you.
is. Yeah. I would almost prefer if we gave him a little bit of the Croatia treatment and we took.
Why is he leaving the British
all
Isles
of
out?
that.
Why aren't we taking all the Isles down?
There was like nothing there at the time.
Oh, wait.
Bunch
Did
of
he take-
nonsense.
What is that big country? Is that Haiti and Dominican Republic or
So, no,
Cuba?
that Dominican Republic and Haiti are right just off screen to the right. That's Cuba.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, my dumb ass.
But look
Oh,
how
no,
far
you're
he's
good.
going up north in the northeast. He's taking some extra stuff up there, I believe. I thought.
Yeah,
he
look
was
how much
anyway.
north we have of Portland now.
Yeah, good for James Polk.
We've got
Great
all
president.
the pretty much entire control of the Great Lakes.
I didn't realize he changed the parallel, probably by
Yeah.
one.
That's great.
Is it-
What else was
oh,
James
is
K. Polk all about?
50th? I don't
Did he get? What did he get done?
He was a cheese man.
Was he a cheeseman?
Kept a wheel of cheese in the White House. It weighed 800 pounds, and anyone who came in could have a bit.
There's no fucking way.
know.
For how long?
don't-
How long do you think like a cheese wheel? Actually, it depends on the kind of cheese. Fair.
You get 800 pounds of cheese, it goes a long way. In those days, you see, the White House was open to visitors. You could just walk right in and take your business straight to the big man.
And my business was.
I'm
1
only
pound of
making up
cheese.
80% of this.
This can't be true.
There was a giant wheel of cheese in the White House, I think, that visitors could gorge themselves upon if they visited on a daily basis. And the White House was open, like to the public.
James Polk was known
that's
for pooping once a week
What the fuck? Why would he be
no.
known for that? What?
because of the
how does-
cheese.
He just had the map and the poop. That's his only thing. If that's on his Wikipedia.
Yeah. He was known for pooping once a week
this is-
because his
this
diet
is
was
who it
mostly
is.
cheese.
Andrew
was the-
Jackson in the main foyer of the White House had a 2-ton block of cheese. It was there for any and all who were hungry. It was there for the voiceless.
There you go.
What?
To be
Cheese
honest,
for
that's
the
like the
voiceless.
one thing that hasn't changed is that cheese is still a flex.
Oh, this is from the fucking West Wing. That's not even.
What are you talking about?
Oh, what I just read was a quote from the fictitious White House Chief of Staff Leo McGarry in season 2 of the West Wing. But it does say Andrew Jackson did in fact keep an enormous block of cheese in the White House. But that seems to be where the similarities with the West Wing end.
He kept the block of cheese for the people that walked in. That's a fact. Now, I think.
Here it is. According to Benjamin Perley-Poore in his 1886 book, Perley's Reminiscences of 60 Years in the National Metropolis. Dude, book titles back then rocked. Thomas Jefferson received an awe-inspiring 1,600-pound cheese behemoth from a Western Massachusetts man, and Jackson's admirers thought that every honor which Jefferson ever had received should be paid to him. So some of them resided in the rural district of New York, got up a mammoth cheese for Old Hickory.
Dibs on the indie band name Cheese Behemoth.
Yes, that's a good one. Man, what a fun guy. Andrew Jackson. You go to his White House, he hands out cheese. He's taking care of that Indian problem.
He's on the $20 bill. On the $20 bill.
It's on the 20.
I remember
one of
when
the
I was
most useful bills.
when I was in middle school. This they brought in this savage American. I don't know what he was. He was all dressed up with beads in his hair and shit. And he had moccasins on, and he brought all this.
I can
he brought
probably
all
guess.
he brought all this bullshit artwork that his savage family had made, I guess. and then he gave us some like bullshit speech about how he won't even carry a $20 bill because Andrew Jackson's on it.
That's all I carry. And it's nothing to do with the president on it. It's just the right currency. Hundreds, I don't roll that deep. Tens and fives, I just put them in the glove compartment or something.
I have brought for you today this ancient art from my forefathers. It is a buffalo in macaroni. Everyone has to be like, wow.
He's got finger paints.
Unfortunately, the horns have begun to fall off.
My Indian name is He Who Paints with Craft.
Yeah.
There was a girl that I went to school with way back in the day, because I was back in North Carolina. We had a place called Lumberton. And there's like the Lumbee Indians there, which it was kind of like a big thing growing up, because they were like, nobody was really sure if that was a real Indian tribe, because they were the right skin tone and complexion. They had like kind of built their own culture, but most of them historically, it seemed like they were just runaway slaves that had inbred with the locals. And so it was kind of like there was a historical context for it, but nobody was really sure. But what they seem to have done is pissed off a lot of the other local like Native American tribes, because they would steal different parts of their culture that they liked and just kind of like created their own amalgamation. So I had one girl that I was going to school with that, like, for the school assembly, dressed up in like 18 different Native American garbs from like different places, and like acted like she was the last of the fucking Mohicans. Like, I don't, not to sound insensitive, but I feel like there's a lot more of you than you'd like to lead on.
It's like, I mean, number one, the propeller ball cap. I don't know if that's tradition, but yeah, I think every high school had a couple of those girls, right? Just clearly white as the driven snow, and being like, I'm Native American. And it's like, no, you're not. Your last name is Nyquist.
We had Elizabeth Warren catching strays for no reason.
Dude, every time I think of Warren, I think of the funniest Trump tweet I think of the entire time. Zach, if you can pull it up rapidly, that would be funny. When she was trying to like do a little boost like video from home, and she was like drinking a beer, like trying to seem folksy and casual, and she like turned to her husband and it was like, "Thank you for being here." And Trump tweeted, he's like, "What a disaster. Terrible video for Pocahontas. She turned to her husband and said, 'Thanks for being here.' It's his house. Where's he supposed to be?" And it's like, that's so, I wish he'd shitpost again. He's probably too old.
Where is he? I wish he would come back to Twitter.
Yeah,
I really miss those days. But I just got a brief little stint of air conditioning from downstairs, getting some more water. There's like a distinct 15-degree difference right now in my house, and it's killing me.
Oof. Plus the Rona, that makes it worse.
And we're live.
What world would you guys like if you have your pick of infinite worlds that you can go and be in, like the Westworld style, like the Old West, what would you pick?
Do I have any powers in this thing? Do I get to be the wizard? I
mean, it's the same thing as Westworld. So like you're like the Ubermensch in this world, where like you can't get hurt, you can't do anything, like nothing, they can't fuck with you. You're like a king.
Okay, but if I live in like Lord of the Rings, am I don't know, Sauron or somebody cool?
I mean, you can pick your character. You wouldn't want to be Sauron.
Parts is you get to be, well, he might be. That might be what he wants. So
you want to win for evil. That's your yeah. Man, that would actually be pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in on that.
Interesting that you didn't become Superboy in your
fantasy. Well, when he was 7, he wanted to be Superboy. When he went through puberty, he wanted something else.
To be Superman.
I didn't know that like a fantasy type thing would even be an option. I was thinking of like historical time periods, sort of in the vein of the show, where they have like, various historical periods of Earth. And
I think the Wild West lends itself well to that setting. Such a fucking shitty. I'm so glad I was not alive in that time or any part of that. What a shitty time to be alive.
I always say like right now is the best time ever to be alive.
Forward.
And
where you
forward.
want to go. Yeah.
If you're going anywhere, you want to go forward. The past sucked for so many reasons.
Visit the past, you might be really like, dude. I could invent the assembly line, right? Like
but you still have no deodorant or health care. Like you got a staph infection. sorry, Henry Ford, you're done for. Like we got no penicillin.
It's a good point.
And I think it's much easier to invent things in retrospect.
Oh yeah,
Like,
that's what
we
I'm getting
see
at.
how.
And even
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
like I couldn't
Oh,
invent half this shit. Like if I go back, I can have all the knowledge of my time that I have right now, what I have. And if I
Right.
went back in time, I'm fucked. I don't know how any of this shit works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, they're gonna be like, I want to invent the cotton gin. They're like, what's that? It's like, you know, that machine that like kind of scoops it and sorts it, and it's a lot of levers. Get on it. Like start figuring this out. Like I wouldn't know what to do. Like I'm not smart enough to figure that shit out. But
No
I could give
joke.
him a really nice workout routine.
With some
You know
resources,
what,
I think I could invent an airplane.
what would be a fun one, I think, if we're doing just history, would be to like go back and fight in like the 300 battle of Thermopylae, like, and be on the Spartan side, and you're gonna be like tearing them up just the way Gerard Butler, whoever it is, did in that movie, because you can't get killed. You're gonna be doing dope moves and slicing up the Persians. That would be a fun one to live out, right?
It sounds exhausting.
You want to go to the Battle of Thermopylae? That sounds
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Why would wait? No, but you can't die.
I can.
Why do I want to go there?
I can
Because
get
then you
sweaty.
can fight in it.
What you just told me is I basically just typed in my invulnerable cheat code, and now I'm playing a real life video game, except I got to do a bunch of shit, and the outcome I already knew ahead of time. And why do I care?
Because it would be fun to kill all the Persians and be doing that kind of. Well, it wouldn't be exactly like history. It would be more like 300, where like they send in like fucking rhinos and shit, and elephants, and the guys with the masks and the bombs.
The Immortals.
It'd be the Immortals with their little claws. See, it'd be a blast.
Yeah, it's
And
gonna
you
be
know,
a
the
feud.
way that
Persians,
we have different
win
visions.
that battle, and so maybe I'm the difference. You know, I'm the one invincible soldier
That
who
would help
only
your
has
team.
to like stop to sleep, and then wait. I don't know. I thought it was fun.
It seems like I
Fucking-
could just put myself in a porn or something, and it'd be a way better time than that Thermopylae bullshit.
We'll leave the sex for real life. Go fight Persians in ancient times, and
I think I'd like to be
I
a
don't know.
knight on a crusade, right?
another
like
good one.
that seems fun to me.
A lot of
Like
burning people alive, stuff like that.
The Crusades, you say?
people
Well, you'd be fighting the Saracens, right?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, Kyle. 100% with you on that.
about the Arabs.
Now who's getting flipped out?
Notice me not saying anything.
Yeah,
Exactly.
They can
Yeah,
work
that
with
would
that.
Oh,
yeah, I don't. I
Okay.
think it would. You know, like there's lots of interesting historical moments, I suppose, that you could reenact. But if I was going to an entire world that was virtual, I think the Crusades are pretty fun. Maybe some sort of crusade to get the Holy Grail or defend Jerusalem or something like that, where you begin in France or something in your homeland, and then, you know, the call goes out, and you know you leave your
Would you want to be on the side where you're actually where they went down for the Crusades, or would you want to be in like the couple centuries prior to that, where like you're being attacked and you're defending the Saracen hordes or whatever they call them?
Yeah,
Because I'm always more like appealed by like the defensive one, like where you're having to like hold a castle, or like then the attacking fantasy. Although they both would be fun. I'm just curious which one you might.
I think I would want to begin. I would want to be attacking. I would want to like leave like my home in France as the son of a nobleman with my, you know, my fancy armor and all my training and my horse and everything, and go to the Holy Land to you know, take some names.
It might be
Okay.
neat to fly a Mustang defending bombers in World War II.
Like Battle of Britain style, huh?
Yeah,
like
that
That
kind
would
of
like
thing.
I wouldn't want to. I don't think I'd want to go back to a war that modern.
Really?
But yeah, I think I'd want to go further back to where it was like, because if you can't be hurt, I feel like you want to embrace that whole hog and be like, I don't want to just get hit by a bullet and have it not do anything. Like you could have like blades going through you and nothing's happening, and you're like up close and personal killing these robots or whatever the hell they are.
You don't play a lot of video games, do you?
Not anymore. No,
It's very boring when there's no challenge.
I just punch out, you know, or maybe there's like a counter where it's like if you get hit X amount of times, you lose or something, but you can't die.
I mostly watch the news and things about like old timey fighting. Like I've been really into Texas Rangers versus Comanches, and Redcoats versus Zulu. Like that's been my thing this week. I'm a big fan of the old movie Zulu. If you've never seen it, it tells the true story of Rourke's Drift. Maybe it was a mission in Africa that there's maybe a couple hundred Redcoats defending. An engineering officer was leading them, and maybe another officer. But they were surrounded and attacked by thousands of Zulu, and for days, thousands of Zulu. And they had those, I think they're Martini Henry rifles. It's like a 45-70 big fucking chunk of a bullet. And the rifle's already crazy long, but then they got that bayonet on the other end. So they've got a spear and a breech loading rifle. Breech loading. So you pull the thing in the bottom and the breech opens at the top. You slide one shell in, close the thing in the bottom. There's not a bolt, but there's a, you open the breech from the bottom. It comes from the bottom.
Double barrel shotgun, but one.
No, it doesn't. The gun doesn't break in half. You operate a lever underneath the trigger guard, and the breech opens, and you're able to slide a bullet into the chamber. And then when you close it, it locks.
Can you say the name slowly so Zach finds a picture?
A a Martini Henry rifle.
Thank you.
That would do it. I think it's 45-70 or something like that. It is a chunk of a bullet, and the Zulus they can see them 1,000 yards away or something like that, really far, and they come in waves. Just waves of spears and shields. They have these big shields that are oval shaped that cover their whole bodies, and they've got a short spear that's like 3 feet long or something like that. And that's it. And for days they fought. Every man has been shot. Like the medic has been sewing people up for days. The movie's good, but the true story is even better. Yeah, though that's what they look like. That's how these guys were dressed, fighting in the African heat.
Oh,
what a terrible idea.
Oh,
I'd be the only one in shorts.
That's cut them all. Florida man.
There's a great scene in the movie where they get into volley fire. So they have a front line of men on their taking one knee, right? Like imagine 10 guys. That's it. Okay, so you got the front line, like taking one knee, and you got the line behind them, and there's a third line that you can't see that's over to the left, and these guys in the middle, they pop up and down as they're commanded to fire. So it's like volley fire in the first rank, and just 30 black guys die, and then they start loading. Second rank, stand, fire, 30 more, and they just keep repeating this, and you see these bodies heaping and piling up.
Is this Shaka Zulu we're talking about, the movie?
No, that's
no. Okay,
this is just
movie.
Zulu.
Sorry, I thought maybe you left it out and it was the same.
Nah, yeah, Shaka Zulu was the main
name.
Leader who was bringing all the tribes together. It's really cool, that movie, and the history of it is too, because I don't know, they talk about the PTSD that some of the guys had from it and all this other shit, but I don't remember how many they killed. It was
Which
some
side
huge
had
number.
The PTSD?
Oh, the Brits won. I'm sure both sides, but who cares about Zulu, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could have guessed the Brits won that with the guns. Like
wildly out.
No. The week before, a force 10 times larger had been massacred by the Zulu. You got to keep in mind the Zulu are 10,000 strong or something, and the Brits have 200 men, roughly. There was a much larger force that had been destroyed.
Yeah, even though you have the guns and the range weapons, that's scary.
Yeah, they're coming.
People.
Yeah, a lot of numbers.
They're in a mission that they've got sandbags and barrels and stuff. It's not a fortified position exactly. It's not a fort. It's a mission that's been converted just because they're coming.
I saw a pretty cool video that explained the British warfare, Revolutionary War times.
Mm-hmm.
And in U.S. schools, we were taught that the Redcoats were just morons with brave but stupid fighting tactics, etc., etc. And they're actually, it's not quite as dumb as it sounds. I was taught that there was no upside, that it would just fire into the crowd, you'll guarantee to hit. It's easy as that. And he's like, when you do have a pack like that, communication is greatly increased. They had a top-down fighting organizational structure. So the officers were able to tell their people what to do. Also, people didn't retreat and quit in the same way. When you're there with your pack, you want to run off and be the solo dude? That's suicide. Mm-hmm. Instead, these guys would fight practically to the last man, because they were there in their group. And then, of course, there's like efficient blasts of volleys that the commander can direct into the right place and be effective with. And I mean, I'm not going to pretend it was better than the guerrilla warfare that we used to win.
It was the fact that we used both and they only used one. It's not as if we weren't lining up with them and having those big field battles. It was that in combination with that, there would be snipers in trees shooting that guy who was giving the orders, causing confusion in the ranks.
I feel like there would elementary school Woody was taught that the redcoats were just dumb, and didn't think of hiding behind a tree or, and but no, okay, I get it. There were no radios, there were no command structures, and people were apt to flee. And we probably lost a lot of battles, but it led to a war that we won.
And I think the death toll from that is so minuscule, it's shocking. Like I think 9/11 was worse than the Revolutionary War.
There's no way.
Yeah. Can we fact check that, Zach?
3,000. I think 3,000 people died on 9/11, right?
It sounds
roughly.
Right.
I'm gonna call it 3,300 on 9/11. I'm gonna include all the planes and the Pentagon, which didn't happen.
Yeah, you got to include that.
Those were missiles.
Pentagon thing didn't happen, and they
I'm
demolished
guessing
Building 7.
There's just no way. There were.
Well, Zach's gonna Google it up.
I know that the Revolutionary War wasn't like fucking Civil War levels by a long shot, or World War I or some shit, but it's got to be a lot of 9/11.
How many U.S. casualties in the Revolutionary War? That's the number we're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, because the British weren't real people.
25 to 70. They were not keeping good track.
But 68. It says 6,800 killed in battle on the American side. 17,000 from disease.
I'm not counting the disease.
No, you can't.
If you count disease, then we're going to 9/11 all those cancer victims in. All right. John Stewart's not preaching for nothing, folks.
No,
all right, fine.
9/11 times 1,000.
Grandfather in the cancer 9/11. And what does that get you to?
9/11 times 27.
The thing about the disease, Kyle, is a lot of those were from gunshots. Right? Yeah. You get a wound and you die later.
That's not true.
No. I just said it. What would I?
You
shot you with the flu bullet.
No.
That's going to fester into a nasty cough.
It gets septic, which I think is a thing doctors say.
That ain't what they're talking about. They're talking about the flu and colds and the plague and whatever the fuck. Dysentery. Some of the old-timey diseases. Whooping cough. Kennel cough.
Kennel cough. Some of them had worms.
Oh, right. I guarantee they all had worms. Like I bet they were all like.
Revolutionary War is low.
I heard that they took their ivermectin, and you're full of crap.
You know what's impressing me here is I didn't know
had to delete those tweets about ivermectin.
I just saw the FDA guy talk about it and say that ivermectin has no. He said that ivermectin looked promising for a short period of time, but it has no effective outcome for COVID. Testified in Congress, and this is recent, like within the last 3 weeks. So I don't know what the deleted tweets were about.
That's not what they were saying. Yeah, I remember when they took the middle of the road stance across the nation. Oh, yeah, ivermectin probably won't show any long-term advantages. That's not what they said. They said, this is horse medicine, you dumb right-wing idiots. This is horseworm medicine. Quick, get the TikTok bandwagon together to mock anyone who wants to take medicine.
That is literally what they did. You're right.
Yeah, that is CNN said. But I thought we were talking about the FDA, and they said,
everybody was together on it. They had to delete their fucking tweets because they were so ridiculous about ivermectin. Look, don't eat it. Don't eat it. I get that. Anybody who's out there eating horseworm medicine, like just straight out the tube.
I bought some ivermectin last month.
I
have
that was for your horse, though.
You're coughing a lot, man. I don't know. You might need some more.
Yeah, you need you take a little bit.
I take it anally. A little bit goes a long way that way.
I bet it does. That's probably where a lot of the worms are.
That's where mine are. That's definitely where mine are.
Yeah, that's definitely where my worms are hanging out in my ass.
Now, I had a guy trying to convince me the other day that from Christopher Columbus's diaries, he was having sex with manatees.
So
there's no fucking way.
I bet what he's referring to.
How do you go about that?
So I bet what he's referring to, and it's just a wild guess, Columbus did write of seeing mermaids, that they were not as attractive as he'd been led to believe. And I'm guessing maybe somewhere he wrote he banged a mermaid.
And so I could not find a reference to actually having sex with a mermaid or a manatee.
Zach, can you look into this?
But I think that's what he was citing, and he did so while we were driving to the Arctic Circle, and none of us had cell reception to police this theory.
That's cheating.
Christopher Columbus is a hero, and that's the end of the story.
We need to do this whole show somehow to people who don't have internet connections.
Is that true? Is that true? We'll never know. It's like it's 1998 again, and nobody has the internet in their
Yeah, he 100% did not.
There's no way he fucked a manatee. I don't even like how.
So I found the reference of him saying that they were not nearly as attractive as he'd been led to believe.
That's
and they
what
had
it was.
very masculine faces, but I never saw further experimentation.
Can I see a manatee face, Zach?
Oh,
I feel like I always see him from behind.
They're not lookers, but they're apparently very sweet animals, very nice and
Yeah.
friendly.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, but I would definitely push back on that theory, Ed.
As I did.
What's it? Lower me down, boys. Like,
oh, that one's sad. It needs
like-
a little Columbus in its life.
This is that one that was like halfway into like bumping its whole head against that glass and like accordioning, if you know that classic clip.
What a cool animal.
Oh,
Yeah, that is a cool animal, but there's no way you could mistake that for any sort of
Santa Maria.
Humanoid creature if you got within.
Maybe if it had some kelp on it and the waters were dark and you were in a rocking ship and it would. Oh, I see. I don't know how either. It's disgusting and
Zach?
not human like.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Zach found the quote, and I'm dying to read it. Columbus also violated a manatee, thinking it was a mermaid, and wrote the experience was less than satisfying, as the creature was quite manly. He also thought the world was a woman, and the Garden of Eden was her nipple.
This is just Columbus hate. I don't believe any of this shit. He was like discovering America, and then he like was like, "Hold on, gentlemen, I need to answer a personal query." Throw down the anchor.
No. He's like, oh really? You double dog? like none of this happened. Like that
This
guy
is
was
the journal that was discovered by the campaign to establish Indigenous Persons Day or something.
Right.
That guy was a
just lying on
millionaire.
him.
That guy was a millionaire with a fleet of ships on the cutting edge of technology. I can't believe that he's. I mean, he had all the native women to rape he could ever want, and he's gonna get a manatee.
Yeah, no, not a chance.
Is the spice of life.
Man, in this household, Christopher Columbus is a fucking hero. That's the end of it.
He is a hero. He was. I don't really know what else he was up to, and I don't care.
Well, he discovered the new world. There was a bit of slave tradery that were going on. He did have that one quote about that AJ.
That was the 1400s. Like anyone who wasn't trading slaves was getting made fun of.
Was square.
It's true.
Yeah, they were bullying on it. Like, you don't even have a slave.
Oh, you a Frenchman?
The French were still
Next you'll be buggering manatees.
I think that was one of those times where the French had a good reputation for being tough. Actually, when was the last time the French were super tough? Napoleon?
World War One? You need to see Quiet on the Western Front. When the French show up, dude, at the end, when the French show up, I've never been more afraid. If I didn't hate the German characters so much, I was cheering when the French showed up. It was like when Gandalf showed up with the Rohirrim, and he's like, "The Herod King stands alone, not today." That's what he should have said. It was huge. They showed up with tanks and flamethrowers, and all those starving Germans got burnt alive and massacred. That was beautiful. I end up siding with the wrong team a lot of times in movies, but I don't think that was one of them, because Germans were the bad guys. And when I saw those French with the flamethrowers, I feel like that's the last time they were doing some cool shit.
Actually,
the French Revolution.
You just shined a light for me on some of my ignorance. That. Why were the Germans the bad guys in World War One? World War II, I've heard a lot about, but okay. What did they do wrong for World War One? Was it
invading France?
Okay.
They had those neat helmets that they shouldn't have got rid of, though, with the spikes on top. That's one of our biggest problems militaristically, is we don't see neat we don't see neat ideas in outfits and uniforms.
Just make all our tanks 8 inches taller to accommodate spikes.
Yeah, make them taller, make spikes.
Make it pointy. Have you seen the Dictator with Sacha Baron Cohen? He plays like an Iranian dictator or something.
Right.
They've made his nuclear ICBM. They've done it. The scientist is so fucking proud. He's in there. He's looking at it. He's like, this is a 12 megaton warhead. We can strike straight to the heart of the great infidel. Washington, D.C., New York City. He's like, yes. Could you make it pointy on top? Because it's very round and blunt. It's like, oh no, you see, this is a re-entry vehicle. This will be going into outer space, sir. It can't be pointy. I understand now. You've shown me I'm wrong. And then he like whispers to a guy and they grab the scientist and like beat the shit out of him, drag him away. The next time you see the missile, it's pointy as fuck. Elon did that. Elon said that on the heavy lift vehicle or whatever, he was doing an interview and he's like, why is it? I noticed before it wasn't pointy on top. And he's like, yeah, it didn't look right. I told him, make it pointy on top. Then, wait, you made it pointy on top just for aesthetics? Purely aesthetics. It in no way aids the aerodynamics when you're going that fast. It's purely, and you could even argue it's not as good.
You could even argue it's not.
It's what he said. Yeah.
You know, Kyle, you'll surely know this. The stealth fighters and the color, you could probably tell the story. The stealth fighters were originally kind of pastel.
Oh, yeah, they were white.
They found that was the best way to hide visually the plane against blue skies, black skies, sunsets, you name it. And then the Air Force saw it and they're like, yeah, make it black. Men don't fly pastel planes.
Right.
Yeah, make it cool.
It's got to be scary.
Shouldn't look like we got it from, Forever 21. I was going to say talking about cool looking military stuff. One thing that we absolutely dominated as Americans, painting like shark faces on planes. Absolutely. No, but I don't think anybody else was doing that. At all until maybe they ripped us off, but we were the ones who were like painting scary shark faces, tornadoes.
I even like the sexy girls on the front.
I think that's
on the
neat
bombers.
Too.
That's a bomber thing. Usually
distant second to the sharks and the animals though, because think about like the dog fights and everything. You see,
I'm not going to kink shame you, but I think I like the girls more than the animals.
You know that whistle on the bombs. That's just to freak people out.
What?
And it's not the sound that a bomb makes, because if you ever watch like us drop bombs, they don't make a fucking noise. They put a whistle on that bitch.
just to like distract people leading up to the bomb.
It's just to scare the shit out of you when the bomb's coming.
That's a pretty okay.
Well, that would work.
Yeah. I don't know what I thought it was.
I was already scared.
Things falling in the air.
This seems mean.
Yeah, just put a whistle on that bitch. It's like that thing you put on your hood to scare deer that doesn't work.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Or taping a harmonica under your buddy's car so he doesn't know where it's coming from.
I've never heard that.
That's a good prank.
Does it work on wives? Because that's funny.
Oh, it works extra good on wives.
You've done that to someone, Ed?
I had somebody try to do it to me, but it fell right off because it was leaking enough oil that nothing was going to stick to the underside of that vehicle. I have seen it work, yes.
I remember hearing about this game that I always get the Mayans and the Aztecs confused, so forgive me, historians. Oh, I cringe when they talk about the Aztecs, because I went to UCLA and I studied about the Aztecs for 4 years, and whenever they talk about the Aztecs, I just can't stand it. Well, click away, cocksucker. So whether it's the Aztecs or the Mayans, they played this game that was similar to soccer, if I remember correctly, but the goal was a hole in the wall on either side. And if you scored, you were sacrificed.
That
you played to like 1 point.
I would not be good at that game.
So imagine a hole like 5 feet high, 6 feet high in a wall, and what it would take to kick the ball and get it to go in that. If I remember correctly, that's how the game is played.
It would take a death wish. That's the hardest part. Finding someone who wants to die.
And forgive me, it's been a little while. Oh, it's not been that long for me. I'm at UCLA studying this right now. You cocksucker. But it was basically like soccer, and you had to, I think you could use everything but your hands, if I remember correctly. But they had, they played until they did score, and the games could be very long. And I was thinking like, okay, yeah, it is hard to score, but I think these games are long because not just anybody was willing to be sacrificed.
Yeah, do you think there were there's a lot of passing in that game, and the announcers season? Another game of 0-0. A lot of ties this season, Todd. Yeah.
This sport looks a lot like tennis. The ball is right and back and forth. I don't want it. I don't want it. You take it. I'd be the worst defenseman of all time, just like stepping out of people's way and letting them go past.
Yeah.
I think most sports are silly. They're just silly.
At their core, when you break down any sport, it's like, oh yeah, you take a piece of lumber and then you hit a ball, and then you run and touch some piece of fabric in a diamond shape and hope someone doesn't catch the ball.
Yeah.
If they invented, it's a good thing hockey is so old, because if they like invented that sport now with all like the overprotective parents, they'd be like, oh my god, they're wearing
Kyle.
razor blades on their feet. This can't be a contact sport.
I'm Googling
There's
here.
knives.
There's some important information.
Sure.
So there's I searched for like Aztec soccer sacrifice, and there's something called the Aztec ball game, and it has another name like ōllamalitzli or something.
That's perfect pronunciation.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
So it looks like the coach or sometimes the entire losing team would be sacrificed. So now there's a whole new incentive to be good at this game. And there's a bunch of other stuff like the head. No, I'm sorry. The ball is meant to
guy at UCLA was cringing.
The ball was meant to represent the head of a sacrificed person, and there's some other things that's spiritually meant sacrifice, but essentially you lose, and at least in some cases they would kill them, and it was an honor to be sacrificed.
I see. See, that's why
oh, but wait,
there's
some dispute. Well, okay, let me read it, because I'm reading it now for the first time.
The way I learned it was the winner, and the way I definitely read it was that it was the guy who scored.
Check this out. You might not be wrong. It is said that the ball represented the head of a sacrificed victim. In Compilation, the ball court was the foot of the blood-stained stairs of the temple, and the ball game itself would be the scene of a sacrifice. It is believed that the losing coach or even the whole team might be sacrificed. Some historians have disputed this. Because it was an honor to be sacrificed, it may have been the winning team that lost their lives. So that's where that stands. It looks like they're...
How do you find enough teams to keep playing?
I remember like when I was maybe 7, 8 years old, we would have chores every weekend. And like my mom would be like, all right, Taylor, you're on bathroom duty. You're on kitchen duty, like scrubbing the floor and stuff. And one time I unknowingly mixed bleach and vinegar, not knowing, that makes chlorine gas.
Bleach and ammonia.
Bleach and, is that it? Mm-hmm. Bleach and ammonia? Whatever makes...
I've made my share of gases.
Okay, well, it was bleach and ammonia then.
I've used them for rats before.
I remember like I'm a little kid, and I like start wiping the countertop, and I'm like, I feel sick, and I just left the room, and I nothing ever came of it. It's because I didn't make a big pot of it. I was just like a kid, and so I was like, multiple cleaning agents. I'll be done twice as fast. And
yeah, that stuff's
just
really
spraying
dangerous.
them onto the wall. Thank God it was a tiny like spritz amount of it, but that still makes enough to like get you coughing and feel sick.
I guess that's chlorine gas.
I think so.
Have you ever seen the video, the black and white video of World War I, when they would unleash a big wave of it? They would do it on a day where, I don't know, air pressure was and the wind direction was conducive to this, but they would basically just have like giant vats of it poured together on the battlefield, and like because of the weather conditions, it would create this low-lying fog because the chlorine gas is so heavy, it gets low to the ground in this thick little
fill
fog,
the trenches,
and it flows.
Yeah.
It starts creeping toward the enemy lines, and there's nothing to do against it except for piss in a rag and throw it on your face, or use that gas mask you were issued 8 months ago, right? Like,
it sounds terrifying. Imagine seeing the death fog just rolling in, and that's a slow, painful death. You might not even be able to outrun it if you just totally abandoned your station.
All your mucous membranes go into like overdrive, and the ones in your lungs especially. So you begin drowning on your own like fluids essentially, while like your eyes, nose, throat, everything are just like foaming.
They should make it so you can be safe on top of the trenches, right? Like all you need is a little sandbag so that you can get above the trench, right? Am I crazy?
Not like they didn't have.
Well, then
that's where the guns are.
That's where the bullets are.
But the guns could. All you need is a small hill above the hole. Like if there's just a hole, then you get out of the hole, you die. If there's a hole next to a small wall, then you can be out.
I feel like it'd be like everybody's in the trench and they're like, smoke's coming in, head for the hill. And the Germans are like, they're all running for the hill as planned.
No, I'm just picturing a sandbag wall a couple feet away from the trench that you can be on the ledge.
I think the issue is that you've got like a trench that's like miles and miles wide that has to be manned all the time because they're, you've been butting forces, somewhere in France with the Germans for
I think
a
I'm not
year.
explaining myself. When you make a trench, you have excess dirt.
They put that in sandbags and they pile them up.
And now you can exist outside the trench behind the sandbags.
No.
I don't think that's as safe.
No.
I don't know.
I would say if the trenches didn't work, they wouldn't have done them because they didn't seem like fun.
No, but I feel like they were.
But the trenches let you stand
warfare
upright.
Again.
Anyway,
you also would have lived in the trench. People would have got chlorine gas
artist
during their nap.
I'm not opposed to the idea. I just need a drawing.
You're in luck.
Can we take 10, 15 minutes?
On a first grade level?
Dude, Woody, I want one of those like 4chan level MS Paint drawings of how you imagine the hill, the trenches, do all that.
Bro,
like I could even do that.
No, the worse it is, the funnier.
Because if you think that let me ask you this, Woody. Do you think that if you could go back to World War I in a time machine and you could give them this tip, do you think that you could save lives?
I'm processing it. I think that it's not that I'm smarter than these soldiers of World War I.
Of course not. No.
It's just that I have a glimpse into their future, which involves chlorine gas. So rather than put the sandbags at the edge of the wall, push them back. See what we have here? A wall. Where did all the dirt go that made that trench? Zach, put your mouse in, like your in front of the guy. There should be like a sandbag with holes in it that people are shooting through in front of his face.
Okay, it might have been a resource issue because you're building miles of wall. If you have miles of wall, you can't double your effort to build sandbags and shit when the hole blocks all the bullets.
Where did the dirt go they used to make the trench? They removed dirt.
It looks like
from the
ground
trench.
line on the right side.
See, they put it behind them. That's a terrible mistake. Put it in front of them, and then they.
No, Woody, they're making a little hill behind them to your specifications.
It's in the wrong spot.
Woody, I just don't understand in what scenario
you can shoot through the hole in the sandbags. It's gonna be delightful. You're gonna love my trench idea.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that was done many times. But let's just say we put some sandbags with a hole in front of them in front of this man. How does that save him from chlorine gas?
Because he can climb out of the trench and be behind the sandbags.
No, he would have to it's going to flow over the top and then down into the trench. So it's going to flow over the fucking sandbags and over wherever he is and keep going down in a massive wave that probably lasts for like an hour.
Wait a minute,
unless he's standing on his tiptoes on top, like stretching up out here, he's gonna choke on it.
Zach, bring the image back up.
Bring the image back up because we have misinterpreted this image entirely. Look at what this is showing. This is
showing in the back shitting.
No, they're showing a scenario in which this man can go prone and like be underground and shoot through a fucking hole, right? Is that not what I'm looking at? Look at how he's in position B right now. Look at what C, B, and A are. In A, he is in a prone position, firing through some sort of hole.
Wait, no. But look at that. That's like follow the ground line. And it shows, depending on where the ground line is with that dotted line, the different positions you would take. So A is if the ground line is barely lower than the shooting position. B is if it's medium level. And then D down there, or C, you can see his right leg up, and then D, both feet down in the deepest trench. You see what I mean? That ground line.
Yeah. You can tell by in like see the M there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The fuck is that?
That is for it's like passing treats, snacks, trinkets.
Oh, okay.
Mustaches.
Oh, they got it's no. It's like one of those sushi conveyor belt things. They got a string.
Yeah.
And it's just grenades, and it's like, oh, I think I will have a grenade.
Is M for?
I think
really
it's
baffled.
I think it's for like passing stuff between the two sides. So you don't.
Am I the only one that
when you pass struggles?
Like looking at stuff like this, like I feel like I don't look at L and G. There's some kind of a fucking crawl space underneath.
There's a bunch of stuff. So, war isn't like they knew what people were doing. They built these things sequentially. They would build something. The other side would come up with something like chlorine gas that would destroy the trench's usefulness. And then they would build their trenches differently to survive the chlorine gas or do gas
didn't address
masks.
LNG at all. I think they're just storage areas, Kyle.
Well, L was a retaining wall to like keep it together, I think. Thank you.
Can we please? Oh,
color.
Well, we're in color now. Okay, so Woody, please show me how we defend against the.
They're kind of doing it here. Do you see the sandbags? All he needs to do is lay down behind the sandbags.
You still die there. Where the fuck do you think the chlorine gas flows over?
Drifter.
Sorry.
I need a chance to talk too. My theory was that the gas was heavy and going through the trench to get to you. It was traveling in the trench, not that it traveled over the.
Oh, yeah, no.
So that's where my mistake comes in.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, it's traveling toward your trench, perpendicular to it from
it's
the
very
enemy.
heavy. I thought that it had seeped into like the first heavy thing it found, and then it was traveling via trench to.
No, it roils along the ground, and it finds all the hidey holes and tunnels. Like it goes down and like
that's why like each side.
But
use
that
it
wasn't even
depending
the
on the
most
weather.
effective way to use it. I'm describing like one instance where I watched them do this thing where they just combined it raw and like created the gas and let it flow like that. That's the shitty way to do it. Eventually, they used artillery shells to deliver it and mortar rounds to deliver it, so they could pinpoint accurately, explode the gas right amongst the enemy, and do it in such a cluster that like instantly a whole line, like hundreds and thousands of people are getting exposed to this gas and going blind.
You asked Woody, you were like, if you go back in time and you share this info, do you think you could save lives? I go back in time to World War I. They go, we're about to send troops, we're about to get moving. I go, guys, don't even waste your time on this one. Let it happen. There's gonna be another guy in about 13 years. Save your resources for that guy. I'm telling you. Like, no, we have to get over there. Trust me on this. Let this happen. Let World War I play out. We save up all our resources for World War II. You know how much we took advantage of the UK, France, all those countries, us giving them huge amounts of resources for loans they couldn't possibly pay back. That then we made them take like manufacturing contracts in our country in the 50s, like, and that helped like our economy grow in a big way. Like we could do that to an even bigger extent. We go, nope, sorry, World War I, we're not jumping in. We have a hunch because of this really smart guy with a normal size head and normal BMI came back in time, and he told us not to waste time because there's a mustachioed motherfucker coming up in the next 13 years. I would be a hero.
To be
Are
fair,
you sure that there would be a World War II if you prevented World War I?
Well, we don't know.
He's going to prolong. See, the problem with that is Hitler's fighting in World War I, right? Well, it's his main. Everybody jokes about the art thing, but Hitler was upset about the way World War I ended, and he felt that that Germany was a military power that, at the very least, could have sued for a better deal at the end, because Germany got really fucked at the end. They were just like, whatever you want, take it. They did one of those when in reality they could have been. They had a better bargaining position.
Is that the Treaty of Versailles, right?
And I don't think so, but I'm not great with that. I thought Versailles was World War II, but I'm no. It's the pomp. It's the what's the one from Sopranos? They make fun of it. Like he said it wrong. But I'm not gonna. It doesn't matter.
Something Accords.
Yeah. It's the one where Stalin and Churchill and FDR are all there together.
He's a fucking interior designer from Czechoslovakia.
It's like the
what you're talking about.
It's like the compassed, fucking can't roll off my tongue thing.
Potsdam Agreement.
That's it.
Did I get it?
Yeah, you got it.
I didn't
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what I needed. I'm just too late to fucking do it, apparently. It's better if I struggle for it.
I like to tap keys while I think. I'm sorry, it's a nervous tick. I tap keys and I dart my eyes around when I'm thinking.
Okay, do you guys ever notice
like
that your hands will like type what you're thinking sometimes? If you're just like thinking about stuff, your fingers will just type it a little.
Yeah.
No?
My N key is worn out.
The G fell off so long ago. It gets worked at least twice as hard as the N.
Just some racist guy always typing it. some racist Rain Man. Always. I remember like learning about World War II and being so like the only thing I took away from it was that every country had different kinds of tanks and all the tanks had advantages and disadvantages, and so I got really into tanks for a while when I was like 10.
What's your favorite tank?
Well, I like the Tiger. I like the Russian Tiger because it basically was it was the tactics they used with it, because the only reason that the Tiger on the USSR side was able to even compete with the German Panzer was because they brought so many. And the meme is always, oh, it's the US with the Shermans that brought so many. The Russians did the same thing. And the T2 Tiger tank had
that's what I was thinking.
gun.
We got a fact check live here. Tiger tanks are German.
I was trying to say that from the very beginning. But
wait, what's the big one? What's the giant USSR?
Well, what you want to go to is the mouse. But it's like however you spell mouse in German, like
T-34. I was saying T-22 or some shit. The T-34 Soviet tank. That was the big one.
Did you ever play that Company of
Company of Heroes?
The game where you move the squads around, the RTS game?
Yeah, I mean, you and I played it together.
I'm trying to remember if that's you that played that with us, like back then. Did you play that with us where you could move the tanks around? It was an RTS with tanks and squads and machine gunners and.
You think about Red Alert, right?
Maybe
that was a great game.
I haven't played that in a while. I could be down. I've been playing so much Tarkov, but I could be lured away.
Tarkov needs tanks.
Tarkov does. Tarkov's getting APC soon, right? The scab boss on the next map's rolling around on an APC.
They'll have tanks before you know it at this rate, right?
I hate tanks in a game. I hate it when the way to do well in this game is to get in the tank, and then you can kill all the people who are on foot and pretend you're good.
Wouldn't it be fine if they gave the tank enough downside that one subversive person could kind of throw a bomb on it?
We were playing a game recently. We were playing a tank game a while back. I didn't care for it, but everybody else was down. Where we were 3 or 4 men controlling a tank, and everybody had a job, so it was kind of neat. One guy's driving, obviously, and one guy's on the coaxial machine gun, the little one, and then somebody's on the main gun, and then we may have even had a fourth in there as our spotter, who's just all the time just looking, and he's like, "Oh, fucking 3 o'clock, on foot," and the coax spins around, chopping guys down, and working as a team like that because. In that game, it was really well balanced. It seemed like it was hard to use a tank. The guys who had rocket launchers in the woods, you'd be hard to spot them.
Didn't Battlefield did that when they added tanks, right? They made them really hard to control.